Anas, send me the code.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Brothers and sisters, we are, mashallah, without the intro today. And we nearly got caught out there, Ijaz, because we were just chatting in the back thinking an intro was coming. Shall we play the intro, Anis? Let's get the intro. Let's do this properly. Come on.
You've got to have Abbas do his vocals, subhanAllah.
Let's do the intro first, and then we'll sort of ease everybody into the stream, inshallah. Take two. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sorry about that. We forgot the intro that time. So as you brothers know and sisters, obviously, today we've decided to do the open forum. And this is a perfect opportunity for an open platform for predominantly we would want Christians or people of other religions or of course atheists to come on and even perhaps interrogate us about aspects of Islam, or if they want to talk about their own scriptures, you're more than welcome to do that. Now, there should be a link at the bottom of the YouTube link video there. And also in the comments, we're going to post the link for you to join. I always say this, if you want to get on, please join early because near the end, it tends to be at least a few people who we generally can't get on just simply because of time constraints. So if you'd like to get on, please do come on as early as you can. And inshallah ta'ala, we will try to have a nice conversation and accommodate you. Dr. Imran, how are you doing?
Alhamdulillah, I'm very well. Jazakallah khair for the vocals. I think they were sorely missed.
Yes, I think we need some vocals initially in the beginning.
We're blessed, mashallah, with Brother Ijaz today.
Alhamdulillah, mashallah. Ijaz, mashallah, made it. Ijaz, so next, not perhaps not, I don't know if it's going to be next Sunday or the Sunday after, but we're going to do the continuation, inshallah ta'ala, of the Old Testament. Is it the prophecies we're going to be doing? Is that right?
Yeah, inshallah. I think we'll head into the book of Daniel this time.
Lovely.
Because we've wrapped up with the book of Isaiah and we didn't get, I would say, very robust responses. So I think Daniel is a more favorable one. Dr. Imran had prescribed some easier medicine in smaller doses. So that's the new mode of treatment, inshallah.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, so we've got a couple of guests or three guests already. We've got Mahesh. Thank you for having your camera on, Frank, and also Timothy. Mahesh, since you were first, we'll get you on first. If you can just interact with me before you go, Mahesh. Sorry, just before you switch your camera off. If you could just wave at me, and then we'll get you on. And you can switch your camera off now if you want to. We're going to get you onto the stream. Mahesh, welcome to the stream.
Hey, hi guys. It's great to see you again. This is my second time with you.
Lovely.
And last time I was on the stream, we discussed about the evidences of God, specifically the empirical evidence.
Right.
And your reply to that was, it was like unreasonable to ask for the empirical evidence of God. And while I disagree with that reasoning, what I want to say is that let's agree to disagree and move on. So my question for today is, what are the other forms of evidences you have for the God with omniproperties?
Okay, that's a good question. Mahesh, I suppose agreeing to disagree perhaps is not the most fruitful conclusion to arrive at. I think the first thing that I would ask you is, why do you expect there to be empirical evidence of God? Because if God tells us that you're not going to be able to see God or see the unseen, that matter of empiricism has already been settled. So what I'm asking you is, why do you feel that if God existed, there has to be this empirical evidence? Otherwise, God can't exist. Why have you made that decision?
Could I just add something before you answer
please.
the question, Mahesh? So I don't think that you're characterizing our disagreement as I remember it. Maybe I'm remembering it incorrectly, but because what the reason I disagreed with your what you were asked for was God can come and show himself to me now, essentially, maybe along those lines, but essentially. Now the problem was I gave the analogy of demanding a personal miracle as being unreasonable. The point about empiricism was that actually it's we spoke about how it's the logic of trying to ask for empirical evidence for something that is supernatural. You can't measure, touch, feel, taste, whatever, anything that's supernatural, because by definition it's not part of nature, and empiricism is restricted to nature. So those were the 2 points I think we left off on last time. So it wasn't exactly what you were saying, but I'll let you carry on with the bus and we can continue.
Yeah.
Sure. So so just to clarify my position further, right? I'm not saying that if something is empirically inaccessible, it means that does not exist. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, if God is, let's say God is supernatural, but the way God is described generally in theology is that it is also all powerful. So even if God is supernatural, he has a capacity to interact with the natural world. For example, even in Quran, right, it was mentioned that 1400 years ago, God split the moon in half. So that means that at that time, God did show miracles to those people. So the question that I have is, if God can do that 1400 years ago, why can't God do it now?
But you're making the assumption that God wants to and he's unable to somehow do it. That's
not what I'm saying.
Well, you're assuming that if God did do that 14 centuries ago, or at the time of Moses, he split the sea, or at the time of Abraham, he saved Abraham from the fire, or at the time of Noah, there was a flood, but Noah was told about building the boat and he saved himself and a few people with him. You're saying that because God was able to do that back then, God should be doing that now as well. And I'm asking you why that is for you logical. Why is that a logical assumption that since God did show miracles previously, he should show them now as well? Why? I don't understand where you come up with that.
So I'm not necessarily saying that he should do that now. What I'm saying is he has the capacity to do that now. Whether or not God wants to do that is a separate question.
Yeah, so this is the problem that you're going to face, Mahesh. So when you're interacting with a mind of any type, a type of any conscious thing, it's not mechanical. So when you do science, what you do is you do experiment. These are my parameters. I'm going to press this button, and there's some mechanics is going to happen, and I'm going to get this result. And the only way that is repeatable is because you're dealing with a non-conscious mechanical, for want of a better word, process. So you get input and output according to a mechanism. When you're dealing with a mind, when you're dealing with a being that can have choice, and which obviously that applies to the creator. But even if we were talking about any being with the mind, you wouldn't get that happening. This mechanistic sort of response, input and output. In fact, it would be completely obscene to think that you can just demand from God, something, and then God would give you that thing because there's no reason for you to assume that. So the question, so you're coming at it from the wrong question. What you're saying is, I want to sit back. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to use my mind. I don't want to use all these faculties that the Creator has bestowed upon me. I don't want to look at trying to explain the existence of the universe and everything else.
I want to do that. No, you're wrong. You're wrong.
I'm paraphrasing, but just let me finish. And the demand for a miracle is, I'm going to sit here, and God has to come down and prove to me in some way that he exists. Now, I think this is backwards. I think the way of going forward in a reasonable way, because I've said before, I think it was unreasonable. Just as you demanding empirical evidence of the existence of the King of Brunei by him appearing in front of your will and whim is unreasonable. This is a similar unreasonable request. So what I would suggest is you start from the other end. because there's a position that you can have. So the position can be, God does not exist. What does that mean? What would we expect to be seeing? Is it a reasonable position to be in? And then you can have that discussion. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if you're coming at it from the point of, I'm going to stand back and make demands, and then the demands can be filled according to my will by a superior being whenever I demand it. And this is something that has happened even in the Quran at the time of the prophets, peace be upon him, and even other prophets, even Jesus in the New Testament narrative. The people demanded signs and miracles.
So I'm not saying that I just want to sit idle and wait for the miracle to believe in God. I'm not saying that, because if you remember when I was on your stream last time, I did not say that empirical evidence is the only form of evidence that I'll accept. I will also accept the other forms of evidences, and which requires me to employ my own rational and logical faculties, and I have already done that. But when I did that, I didn't find any necessary reason to believe in God. So that's why I wanted to come to you and ask this question. But just to clarify, I'm not saying that the empirical evidence is...
So it's really good. It's interesting because you've appealed to your research before.
Yes.
Quite a few times, without actually alluding to what that research was. So it almost comes across as like, I've done all this search, and for me, this is a done deal. I want to see what you guys have to say. And actually, I think that's probably not a reasonable way of approaching the conversation. So
it's not a done deal. Sorry. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that it's a done deal. I'm willing to learn from you. I'm not saying that my research is like 100% like bulletproof and there are no holes in it. If you find any holes in it, I'll be more than happy to learn from you.
Okay, so let's start on a very basic level then. How do you explain the existence of the universe?
So there are like different ways to approach this. So one way would be to say that. So again, just to make sure that I clarify my position, I'm an agnostic, and I have no problem accepting the existence of God. So one explanation can be that God created the universe, but the other explanation could be before. So I just want to clarify my position, and the second possibility is that universe could have always existed. So when I think of the existence of universe from from the standpoint of reason and rationality, I see that these two possibilities are plausible.
Okay, so let's have a look at this idea of the universe always having existed. So we both agree then that the idea that something can come from nothing is nonsensical. Yes, we agree with this?
Yeah, it is. It does not go with our common sense. That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. So because there is something now, there always has to be something. Yeah, that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So because there is something now, there always has to be something. Because from nothing comes. Yeah. It's very basic, straightforward, logical, not empirical. We can't measure this, but this is common sense logic that we're applying, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So this is what's happening now. So the question is, you're attributing that the universe, the two positions you have, the universe was always there, or the universe was something that came into existence, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So how do you answer that question?
What was the question again?
Has the universe is always there, or the universe is something that came into existence? How would you go about analyzing and answering that question?
So let's analyze the first possibility, right? So there is no reason to believe that universe was not always in existence, because we do not have any strong evidences to reject that possibility.
Sorry, say that again. So, I think I'm not hearing you.
So what I'm saying is that there are no strong evidences to reject either possibilities, right?
No,
but your position seems to be that. Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
No, there are good reasons. Okay, what I'm asking you is, what are your reasons for saying the universe has always existed? Why are you making this claim? What's that based upon? Why do you even think that that's a reasonable conclusion?
Because it is reasonable because the way we think about existence, for example, usually when we talk about existence, we always intrinsically allocate the notion of time to it. But we know that in reality, we do not have to associate the notion of time to existence. So if you kind of detach the notion of time from existence, there is no reason to believe that universe could not have always existed. But the moment you add a time into that equation, you get like all kind of like time and causality related paradoxes. If you remove the time from the equation, then it can be perfectly logical to say that there is a possibility that universe could have always existed.
How old is the universe?
So the Big Bang was 13.8 billion years old, but the Big Bang was not the origin of the universe. Big Bang was the period when
what was the origin of the universe?
We don't know that. So if you are asking,
no, the singularity was where the Big Bang, where the inflation occurred from.
You're wrong. That's not right.
So the singularity.
Let me elaborate on that. Let me elaborate. So
please
the singularity theorems those were like posed by Penrose and Hawking, and those singularity theorems were based on certain assumptions. And when Penrose and Hawking they proposed this theory, there was no way to verify those assumptions. But later on in 1980s, it was proven that the assumptions with the singularity theorems were false. So even though singularity theorems make sense mathematically, we now know that empirically they do not exist.
Sorry, how do you know that they don't? So you're saying that there was no singularity?
There is no evidence to like accept it at the moment. That's what I'm saying.
There's no evidence to accept that there was a singularity, yeah?
Yes, that's right. It does not mean that singularity does not exist. I'm not saying that singularity does not exist. What I'm saying is we do not have any evidences to accept that as a fact. That's what I'm saying.
So what evidence are you looking for?
It depends on, right? So when usually when we are interrogating this question from the scientific standpoint, the scientists usually accept the empirical evidences.
Physics is not done. Physics is done mathematically.
But that is okay.
Understand? So physics is done. Just give me 1 second to explain. Yeah. So physics is done mathematically, and then any empirical data can come many years later.
Sure.
So the idea that you're talking about, they expect empirical evidence. This is, I think that's probably let me just show you something. 1 second. Yeah, I'm just trying to present something to you. Let me just. Why is it not letting me do this? Present, share screen.
So I know you are talking about. So there are like two types of sciences. The one is the inductive, and the another one is deductive.
No, that's not what I'm talking about. Let me just try and show you something. Okay, so if you come across this paper, it's a question that we're discussing now. Yep. Did the universe have a beginning? Have you heard of Alexander Vilenkin?
Yep. So he's one of the founders of, not the founders, but inventors of BGV theorem.
Yeah. So he's a physicist. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he wrote the paper. I think this is from 2014, if I remember, 2012. Here we go. But they're answering the question that we're discussing. Did the universe have a beginning?
Sure.
Okay. And what they write is, we discussed 3 candidate scenarios which seem to allow the possibility that a universe that could have existed forever with no initial singularity. Yeah. So this is what you're saying. There was no. You're saying that you assume there's no singularity. I don't know how empirically you can do that.
I'm not saying that. Sorry, again, I'm not saying that there is no singularity. The singularity might happen, like it might be the fact, but we don't know.
Possibility. Yeah, that's what we're saying. Yeah. So that what they do is I won't read the end of the abstract, but we discussed the 3 candidate scenarios which would seem to allow the possibility of a universe could have existed forever with no initial singularity. And they are internal inflation, cyclical evolution, and an emergent universe.
Sure.
Okay. What they then do is, I'll put the link for this paper up in they go through the physics of it. They all do the maths or whatever, and then they come to a conclusion. To answer the question, did the universe have a beginning? At this point, the answer seems to be to this question is probably yes.
Yes.
Yeah, we have addressed the 3 scenarios which seem to offer a way to avoid a beginning, and we have found none of them actually can be eternal in the past. Do you understand? Yeah.
Yep.
So now the reason I'm presenting this to you, this is not my personal reason for thinking the universe had a beginning, but you were referring to the physicists, and the physicists seem to disagree with you.
No. They do not disagree with. As I also said, right? Even I, in the very beginning, I told you that I accept the possibility that universe may have a beginning. In the very beginning of my agreement, I did tell you that, right? What I'm disagreeing with is that you are making an assertion that we definitely know that the universe had a beginning. That's not what the paper is saying, right?
Yeah, I can come to that. That's fine. So if you want to argue from I don't know, if you want to just say, oh, look, I don't know anything, and that's going to be my position, then you're in a position where you cannot say that I'm wrong. You cannot say that I'm wrong.
I'm not saying you're wrong.
Okay,
I'm
so
not
then
saying you might be right.
Do you understand why your position is a nonsensical position?
Why it's nonsensical?
Because the evidence that you're asking for, I'm presenting it to you from your paradigm. Yeah. Here we are. This is not evidence for you. Physicists are not evidence for you.
I'm not saying that this is not an evidence, but if you look at the conclusion, they are saying that it's probably, right? So the operating word there is probably.
Yeah.
So they are not accepting it as a fact right now. What you are doing is you are accepting this as a fact. You're saying that. So you are also.
So you have to, Mahesh. This is the problem here now. If you're going to say that this is if this is not an evidence you're going to accept because they're saying probably, science never gives you facts.
I'm not saying that I'm not accepting this evidence.
No. Hear the question, Mahesh. Hear the question. Does science give you any facts at all?
That's what I'm saying, right? If we do not let's
Mahesh, please, with respect, answer the question I've asked you. Does science give you anything facts? 100% truth.
How do you define facts? That depends on how you define facts.
You're going to be Jordan Peterson on me, or are you going to answer the question? Does science give you any facts?
So do you consider theory of relativity to be a fact? Do you consider that to be a fact or not?
I'm asking you a question.
So that depends on your definition of fact.
Mahesh, 1 second. The position you're taking undermines everything in science completely.
I don't think so.
If you're saying that because the word probably is used, then that would, because what does science do? It produces models of the universe, how the things work. No one would ever say that this is 100%. This is how it is. This is truth. This is a fact. In that sense,
yeah.
So what you're doing by saying, look, they're saying probably, all of science is saying that.
Now, okay, so this is the one evidence.
No, 1 second. So I want you to understand the position that you're in. Do you understand? You're in a position of, I'm going to be skeptical. It seems clever. I disagree with that position. I don't think it's clever at all. I think it's just a position. You're arguing from ignorance. Look, it says probably, I don't know, shrug my shoulders. It could mean this, it could mean that. You're never going to do anything. Do you understand? You're never going to actually make a statement. You're never going to be in any position to make any claims.
So what I'm saying is, you have one piece of evidence. There are like other numerous theories.
Mahesh,
which will give you. Give me 1 second. Sorry. Give me 1 second.
No, just 1 second, Mahesh, just 1 second. You know, look, you made comments earlier saying that there's no evidence for singularity. There's no evidence for beginning.
Sure. Yeah.
Now Imran's provided you with evidence, and now you're wriggling. You know, if you do
no.
Fishing.
If you give me some if you
Mahesh,
give me
what it is, if you ever catch an eel, right, Mahesh, I used to do a little bit of fishing, not major, just sporadic now and again. But if you ever catch an eel, it's very, very slimy, very difficult to hold an eel. Yeah. And I find that arguments often with atheists are literally like catching eels, because what happens is, as soon as they say something and you provide evidence from their paradigm, which is what Imran did, they say, it says probably. Well, science, as Imran has said, it applies probabilistic analysis on theories. This is the most probable cause.
That's what induction is.
Can I?
That's what induction is.
So Mahesh, what I'm saying that we've got a lot of guests.
No, but
I fear.
Just give me like 30 seconds, and I'll explain why.
Relax. You can explain. I'm just giving you. I'm trying to explain to you why I'm not going to allow this to go on too long, because we have a lot of other guests who are waiting. And unfortunately, unless you're prepared to say, actually, you know what, Imran, I said there's no evidence for a beginning. I was wrong. These are renowned, highly respected, highly accomplished scientists who are saying, actually, you can't escape the beginning. There was a beginning. Even the cyclic universe, scientists are saying you still can't escape a beginning. But here you are arguing, really, apparently, from the scientific paradigm, but you're against the scientific data, and you're going for perhaps probabilistic arguments that are not taken seriously. And so you're actually throwing your own science under the bus in order to try to win an argument. But I'll let you finish up, and then maybe if Ijaz wants to have a minute or two, but then we're going to get a few other people on because there's a lot of people waiting. So please go ahead, Mahesh.
Yeah. So what Imran has presented is called a deductive nature of science, where you can have a scientific theory, and that scientific theory can have different types of hypotheses. And one of the hypotheses is that yes, universe may have had a beginning, and I have no problem. Give me some please don't interrupt, right? But there are like a bunch of other theories. So you mentioned about Alex Valenkin, right? He has like other theory. And I can show you his statement where he had said that it is also possible that universe probably could have existed forever. So I'm talking about Alex Valenkin here. So what I'm saying is the way science operates is you can have a theory, and that theory can have different hypotheses. And the way scientists arrive to a conclusion is either by the use of some kind of a data or some kind of an empirical evidence. That's how the science approaches towards the truth. Now, there is another form of science which is inductive in nature. And in inductive, for example, I mentioned about theory of relativity, right? So if you accept theory of relativity to be a fact, then you can say that science can give you facts. But if you're talking about the deductive nature of the science, then yeah, in the deductive nature of science that you presented, you can have different hypotheses.
Reducing, 1 second. Yeah, so this is so we're now arguing about the philosophy of science, yeah, and that's not really where I wanted to go. But let's have a look at this. So the problem with you've heard of Thomas Kuhn.
Mm-hmm.
You've heard of Thomas Kuhn?
No, I don't think I've heard of it.
Okay, so he's a physicist and then went on to do, I think, a PhD in the philosophy of science. And he talks about how science changes, and he talks about the structure of scientific revolutions. Yeah, and he says there's a consensus that has to be changed when the thinking changes. So when you change the way you think about something, actually it changes everything within the science. And that's almost like a social event, in that there has to be a build up against the dogma of the opinion, and then it would change. So like we're having a build up of information against neo-Darwinism. Eventually this will get to a stage where the dogma is overcome and people will realize actually this theory doesn't actually explain the data that's available. Now the problem is that science says all science is conceptual. The hypothesis, the pre-theory, the hypothesis that's put forward is based upon some sort of assumption. It's not empirically based. That's based in the mind of the scientist who comes to that hypothesis from whatever reason. So the problem the position that you have is that science can't give you an answer. Okay, so let's put science to one side. It can't give you the answer.
Yeah, let's do that. Yep, let's do that.
Science can't give you the answer.
Sure.
So now you've put science out the way. Yeah, it's probabilistic. I can't explain. This is not a tool, something that I can use. So now
again, like that is not what I'm saying. I do believe that science can give you the truth, but as you said, right, there are certain categories of truth which science may not be able to explain. That does not mean that science.
So we're talking about the origin of the universe.
Sure. So yeah. So what is your non-scientific argument?
No. I'm asking you. Do you think that science can give you any information about the origin of the universe?
As of now, I don't think so.
Okay, so let's throw science out the window for your question. Yeah?
Sure, yeah, let's do it.
So science you don't believe in. Okay, so science you don't believe in for this question as a reasonable response, yeah?
I mean, it depends. It depends, right? So if you're talking about nature of the universe from the philosophical perspective, then I'll not talk about the science. But if you're talking about...
It just said scientific. Mahesh, are you sure about any? Sorry, it's just like it's going in a circle. You should rename yourself to not sure at this point.
Sorry, I was not able to hear you. Can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Thank God. No, just thank God. Dr. Imran, continue. My apologies.
Yeah. So Mahesh, what's coming across is that you're really just hyper skeptic. You've thrown out for this question, you've thrown science out. Let's just give you some credit. You've thrown science out of the window. You said, look, science can't bring anything that would be for you reasonable. This is at odds, because you were saying I want empirical evidence, and now this is now we agree that empirical evidence can't be provided. Yeah. Empirical evidence can't be provided.
At the moment, this is the
Yeah.
case
I'm
for
not talking-
the knowledge or
one
the amount of progress that we have made in science, the state of science that as it exists today. Yeah, let's say that.
So I don't want you to use the science of the gaps argument, Mahesh. That I have great faith. I have great faith in science of the future. This is science of the gaps. There's a gap there that science principally can't fill, because when we get to the beginning of the universe, all of the things that we would think about using to measure would not working. All the laws would be different, and what's happening now is that you're saying, well, in the future maybe science will have this is science of the gaps. This is really a faith statement, because you have no idea what the future will hold. Yeah.
So do you believe that
in the future, it's also possible that science will say we don't know. Still, we'll never know, because it's outside of our remit.
Yeah. So we don't know at the moment what will happen for sure. Let's
Okay.
agree
So again, you're in a place where probably is always going to be the answer for you. Yeah. So you never have a response to that. Now the question. So that science is not the way you want the answer, right?
Sorry, science is not the way.
Science is not the way you want the answer of the beginning of the universe.
Yeah. I'm open to other forms of evidence.
Okay, so asking for empirical evidence was incorrect, right?
My question was about the empirical evidences of God. It was not the empirical evidences for the origin of universe.
Yeah. So one second, Mesh. If you can't provide empirical evidence for the beginning of the universe, which is a physical entity that is subjected to and empiricism can be used, how much more illogical is it to ask for empirical evidence of a supernatural being who by definition is not going to be susceptible to the empirical analysis?
So do you believe that God...
No, answer my question, Mahesh. You're not answering the question. You're avoiding the question.
No, I'm not avoiding the question.
We've just agreed that empirical evidence, you say, for the universe is not something that is reasonable, right?
At the moment.
Yes. Yes, sure. You can have faith in science in the future. I'm not arguing about your faith. I'm talking about the empirical evidence you're demanding. You believe that there's no empirical evidence for the beginning of the universe, and probably because our physics breaks down at that point, we're not going to get that. But it could be either way. So you would put anything that's probable. That means that you can't make a decision about it, right? If you can't use empirical evidence to to assess the beginning of the universe, how then are you going to? Why are you making even the suggestion that you want empirical evidence for a supernatural entity that by definition would be outside of assessment by empiricism?
The reason is the supernatural being that you are talking about, you are claiming that entity is also all powerful. So that means that it has an ability to interact.
Being all powerful doesn't change the nature of the fact that you can't assess supernatural being empirically.
I'm not saying that I want to assess God empirically. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if God can really interact with... No,
Mahesh, we're making progress there. We're making progress there. So we can't have empirical evidence for the universe, and we can't have empirical evidence for the creator, right? You've just said that.
What I'm saying is, even if you cannot access God empirically, God, if he wants to, can interact with the natural world. And if he decides to do that...
We're going back to the I'm demanding a miracle argument, which I said it was unreasonable. We agreed it was unreasonable. Just like you can't demand from the Sultan of Brunei to appear before you to prove he exists just because you want it. The same would apply to the creator. It's an unreasonable request.
No, I disagree with that, because the King of Brunei is a limited being.
It's not about the limitation.
God does not have limitations.
Mahesh, it's not about the limitation.
It is about limitations.
No, it's not about... If the King of Brunei wanted to come before you to accede to your request, could he do that?
He might not, if he has the time and if he has willingness to do that.
Okay, Mahesh, I think you're being deliberately unreasonable. If the King of Brunei wanted to appear before you to accede to your request of proving he existed, you're saying he couldn't do that?
He can do that. I'm not...
Okay, great.
I don't know. Okay. I'm not talking about his capacity. I'm talking about his willingness.
The being... So the limitation does not apply in this discussion.
It's not the question of just limitation. It is also a question of willingness, right? If King of Brunei
that's exactly
has
what
willingness...
I said. Mahesh, I think it's time to move on from you, because I said to you before that the whole problem with this argument about demanding a miracle was you're dealing with a mind.
No, but
This
that's what I
talks
said,
about
right?
will.
Let's agree to
Just
disagree
one
and
second,
analyze
Mahesh,
the other
Mahesh,
forms
one
of
second,
evidence.
Mahesh, 1 second. We spoke about this is a question of you're dealing with a mind, and you can't just demand things from being to fit your own requirements. We spoke about the king of Brunei, and you said the reason he won't show himself to me is because he's limited. We spoke about that, and
That
it
is
was
only one
it was
reason.
1 second, Mesh. We spoke about that, and you agreed that the limitation didn't apply in his willingness or not willingness to show himself to you. And then you switched the argument as if you were presenting it that it's not just about the all powerful, but it's also about willingness. So to be honest with you, I think that you're going in circles. Now, what I would say to you is, with respect, if you're going to be in a position where you don't know anything, then I don't think I'm able
I'm not
to help
saying
you.
that.
Do you exist,
That's not what I'm
Mahesh?
saying.
Do you
That's not
exist?
what I'm saying. So
Mahesh,
all I'm asking is,
Mahesh,
so my main
Mahesh,
question. Sorry.
Mahesh,
Give me
1 second, Mahesh.
Mhm.
Do you exist?
I do.
You're sure about that?
Yes.
Have you got any evidence to establish that you exist?
What kind of evidence would you accept?
No evidence, Mahesh, because anything is probabilistic.
I'm not saying that everything is probabilistic. That's not what I believe in.
Okay.
Can you
Mahesh.
give us one certainty?
Yeah, give us
Sorry?
one thing that you're certain about, please.
I know that 1 + 1 = 2.
That's wisdom. Wow.
Okay, thank you. So we've concluded 1 + 1 = 2. Mahesh, it's been lovely talking to you.
No, but give me 1 second. So my main question for today was, sorry, yeah. Before I leave, I just want to
Mahesh,
say
1
one
second.
thing, which is that.
Mahesh, you're talking over. It's not appreciated.
Yeah, Mahesh, right? So now that we're satisfied, you understand number theory. You understand what the word theory there means for number theory. Yes?
Can you speak up a bit, because I'm not able to hear you?
Yeah, you just said you are certain that 1 + 1 = 2. Yeah? So you accept number theory then?
I mean, yeah, I'm not like an expert of number theory. So if you can elaborate on what you mean by number theory, yeah, that would be good.
Do you think?
I think we should end the
Dr. Imran,
conversation.
you can
There's
take it
so many
from
people
here.
waiting.
I'm not. So that's what I'm saying. The term that you are using, number theory,
Mahesh,
right?
we
It can
really,
encompass like a lot of different
Mahesh,
things.
thank you very much for coming.
Yeah.
What I'm going to do just before you go, I'm going to just give you probably just a very outline of the position that we hold. Yeah, just so that you have something to think about, and then we can sort of go from there. A future conversation, because we have lots of people waiting. So nothing can come from nothing. We agree on this is our position. God says in the Quran, "Did you create yourselves? Did the universe bring itself about, or did you come from nothing?" Both of that. It's a rhetorical question. Both of those, and the answer is neither of those apply. Which means something has to bring the universe into existence. The universe is a dependent thing. It has to be brought into existence. Now, if you were to go back in an infinite chain, as one of the theories presented is an infinite chain of contingent things, or things that require explanation for their existence. Having an eternal regress, infinite regress of dependent things is nonsensical, and so therefore there has to be a foundational thing in the beginning, which everything else depends upon. Now, if you do a conceptual analysis of that thing, we can come to the conclusion that there has to be something that is powerful and which has will, which is unlike everything else that it depends upon it, because it brings about those things without having the properties of dependence which those things inherently have. This is how we arrive at a necessary being, which is all powerful and has a will and is unlike anything within the creation. Very basic, very straightforward, logical. What you could do is, next time that you come, if you want to disagree with any of that, please feel free to have that.
Yeah, I'd definitely like to talk about the logic that you mentioned.
But you have to have, Mahesh, you have to come with something certain. If you're going to be like, I don't believe anything, I'm not sure if anything exists, or I'm not sure if anything is real, because everything's probabilistic.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that everything is unreal, or I believe that there are certain facts, and I believe that there are some claims that you can definitely make about universe or reality in general. My only question is that, or my only statement is that, to believe something you should just need to have certain evidences. I'm not talking
so the
about
evidence
just about,
evidence being used.
talking about
Mahesh, 1 second, Mahesh. I think we'll end with this. The evidence being used is logic. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Which
I'll
is what
accept the
science,
logical.
which is what science and everything else, and even your thinking now depends upon. So
I'll accept the logical
if you
evidences.
disagree with that, then that's a thing that we can talk about. But we'll do
So
that.
can I tell you why the
Mahesh,
logic of
at
infinite
the moment
regression
you
is
can't
illogical?
because Mahesh, at the moment you can't because you've been on with respect for almost 40 minutes, and we have many people in the background that we need to
Sure.
talk
Yeah.
to.
So next time when I'm on the
next
call,
time
I
you
would
come
like
along,
to tell you why the infinite regression is not illogical. So yeah.
Yeah, that would be really interesting to see. So let's see if you can bring that next time when you come.
Okay.
I
Thank you guys. Thank you.
I doubt that, but let's see. Okay. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Okay.
I'm going to be quiet now, I think, for a little while.
No. I mean, to me, it's astonishing that he started an argument wanting empirical evidence, empiricism. And then all of a sudden, and he believes in science. And then he came with science. That science actually doesn't say that the universe had a beginning or a singularity, etc., etc. You provide evidence to the counter, and then he's saying, well, they're saying probably. So it's just like it doesn't matter what you provide. It doesn't matter what evidence you provide. It doesn't matter what counter arguments you provide. It just goes on and on and on, and which is a shame, really, because I think it leads to nowhere. To be fair, okay, Timothy,
Uncle Abbas, just
Yeah.
quickly.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys noticed this, but when we asked him, "What are you certain of? Can you tell us one thing you're certain of?" He went to numbers when he could have said, "I know that I exist." Right? Understand the problem here. That's the thought he ended with before I asked him the question. I know I exist. Dr. Imran asked him, how do you know that you exist? If you're not sure about your own existence, then at this point, none of us can help you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
There's a whole other side of science that deals with that. And typically it's word one. But I'll leave that for Dr. Imran.
No, and I think, one other thing is that, and I find this very disingenuous. If science generally had a consensus of agreement that the universe did not have a beginning, and in fact that the universe was an eternal existence, and these are the mathematics, and this is the physics, to from a probabilistic argument, the most reasonable and most plausible thing to believe, I bet you they wouldn't throw science under the bus then. Right, I bet they would all cling to it like a baby clings to its little blanket, to its blankie. Yes, they would cling to it. But because science goes against their notion of an eternal universe, of no beginning, because it goes against that notion, it gets thrown under the bus. They actually throw under the bus the very thing that they think that they're relying upon to defeat the theist. But if it were the other way around, they'd be clinging on to that science tighter than you can imagine. Timothy, we're going to get you on next. You can switch your camera off if you want to, or you can leave it on, whatever you're comfortable with. Welcome to the stream, Timothy.
Cool. How you going?
Yeah, we're doing fine. How are you doing?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, good. It's great to be able to talk to you guys, especially Ijaz. Watch you guys a lot. I have a neighbor who's been telling me a lot about Islam, nearly converted, and then saw some things that I didn't agree with. And though you guys are very nice, and polite the way you talk to people, I just find some things that you talk about deliberately wrong. Like I think you misrepresent. And if you see, the problem is if you have something, someone deceiving purposely, is what I'm worried about. Then can you trust them on anything? Why would you do that? For example, I was watching from Muhammad showed me a show where you were talking to a gentleman in America about Hajj. I think you had a whole section of showing people that going to do Hajj and circulating the Kaaba isn't paganistic. And you said that, I think it was Imran said that, Hajj is actually a Hebrew word. And he showed the Hebrew word. Now, Ijaz might be able to help me out of it because I'm sure Ijaz knows Hebrew, right?
No,
Am I still with you guys?
no.
Sorry.
So Timothy, to make things easy, why don't you? You're saying that we misrepresent stuff. What's the biggest thing that in your mind that we've misrepresented? If you could just tell us what that is, then we can perhaps deal with one thing at a time.
Okay, yeah, okay. So, well, one thing was this. You were saying that the Hebrew word is hajj, but it's hakag in your forum. So, if you didn't know that, that's fine. I'd just like to correct on that point, so it doesn't look like you're trying to deceive people about how a word is actually pronounced in Hebrew and its meaning, because you also had like different definitions for what Hagag means, and one was circumlating, the temple or whatever. It means pilgrimage. It means a feast, a pilgrimage feast, which actually, is singing and dancing and feasting. It had nothing to do with that. So that was one point. But another one was you were talking, and this was a key point to me actually, because it actually almost is one of the things that almost converted me. You had a very good video that Ahmed showed me that was pointing to a lot of things. And then one point I found out was actually false. You're looking at Acts, and where Paul goes back to Jerusalem, where he gets arrested. And he visits James, and James says, all the Jews are saying that you're teaching against the law of Moses. And to prove that you're not doing this, go and take these vows and take these men and do such and such. Now, that was a little bit misrepresented, because he wasn't teaching Jews to go against the law. What he was doing, and they explained it in the verses following. I'm just going to pull over. Sorry, I was just driving, and so I just need to collect my thoughts. Jews. He wasn't teaching the Jews to go against Moses' law.
Not to follow the law. You're saying
not to follow the law.
He was only teaching the Gentiles. Is that what your argument is, Timothy? Yes.
Well, that what they were doing was not putting any burden, like in Islam. Islam does the same thing. They say they do things slowly.
Timothy, let's deal with those 2 points then. Let's deal with those 2 points.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
The first one being, and please do correct me if I'm wrong, that this word Hajj doesn't exist in Hebrew, and it's not, and this pilgrimage is not the same thing as or similar to our Hajj. And the second point was,
that's right.
And the second point basically is that when Paul actually doesn't visit James, he's actually summoned by James. But let's not deal with semantics there. He's summoned to Jerusalem by James, the head of the church, apparently the brother of Jesus, and he's basically said that these people have gathered here. We'll give you the actual verse, and in fact, he wasn't teaching the Jews that the law was no longer important, but he didn't want to burden the Gentiles with the law. That's your argument, yeah? Okay, so go on. Sorry, go on, Timothy. What? Yeah, please.
I just wanted to correct. What makes you think he was summoned? Because that's not what the scripture says. It wasn't that he was summoned to Jerusalem, but was he was going to Jerusalem to visit those, because it was something he would regularly do, go and hand money to those who needed it in Jerusalem.
So let's deal with both of those arguments, but I'll hand it over. Sure. If Imran, you could handle maybe the because you raised the point I think previously about the Hajj, and then maybe Ijaz can, or you can touch on it as well, and then Ijaz can touch on the Council of Jerusalem that Timothy has referred to.
Yes, thanks, Timothy. So I think so. It's very interesting because you've, platitudes aside, you've sort of accused us of misrepresenting, possibly deliberately, things, which is, I take great objection to that, and the reason is actually, because the idea is that we're taking information, knowing that it's not, and knowingly misrepresenting information to people. So the problem with this approach, if anyone were to take this approach, is that it's very easy to refute it. You just go and check the sources, and you could see that actually, no, this information is correct, and therefore I can't take what these people are saying. Now, so the let's just start with the very basic things. So Arabic and Hebrew are both Semitic languages, and they both work on a 3-root system for words. Yeah,
They do.
Now, the root word for the root word for Hajj and the root word for Hagag, as you've pronounced it, it's just you're pronouncing the Jim and the equivalent Jim in Hebrew have slightly different pronunciations, but it's exactly the same root letters. Okay, what do you think Hajj means in Arabic?
Is it though? Is it?
It is exactly the same. It's exactly the same root letters. I'll put them.
Okay,
I'll put
what are
them
the
up
root
for
letters
you.
in Arabic? Yeah.
Sorry, say that again.
What are the root letters in Arabic?
Ha Jim Jim. And
Okay. Interesting.
what are the which is the same actually in the Hebrew equivalent. Yeah. And
yeah, you
when
have
you
the
have
hey and the gimel and the
yeah,
gimel.
so these are you know what when you have Semitic languages, if you put the alphabets together, the Hebrews pronounce their letters different to the Arabs pronounce their letters. But that's all you're pointing out. You're not actually pointing out that the words are different in their roots. You're just saying that if I go to Wales, they pronounce their A's in a different way than if I went to Scotland and they pronounce their letters in different. It's the same alphabet. Now these are not the same alphabet, the Arabic and Hebrew, but they share their origins, and so that they have a similarity in the letters and the way they're pronounced. In fact, modern Hebrew was resurrected because from the history of the language.
I do know the history of the language.
Yeah, so it was the language. Then you should know. Then I'm surprised that you're making this claim that these are not the same root letters in these languages. Now, what do you think Hajj means in Arabic?
So I don't know Arabic.
No, the question wasn't whether you know Arabic. The question was because what you've done is you've come to make the claim that these aren't the same, and then you're saying you don't know the language that you're talking about. They're saying that it's different.
Okay, so first of all, the way it was represented in that that show was you were telling this gentleman that this Hajj is a Hebrew word, and so this gentleman would go away thinking that's Hebrew because he doesn't speak Hebrew. It wasn't explained to him. It's actually not. Anyway, I believe that Hajj means pilgrimage. Hagag means it specifies feast. It's a pilgrim feast, but it specifies more on feast more than anything, or like a celebration over something. So what does it mean in
so let's
Arabic?
have a look. So Timothy, you're sort of so what's your background? It would be interesting to know.
What do you mean? I'm a Christian.
Yeah. Do you have any qualifications within the language specifically, or what is it that you?
I studied Hebrew at university.
Okay, so if you read Exodus 5:1,
yes, which I did.
The term festival is what?
Well, I'm not looking at my Hebrew at the moment, so its root is Hagag, but
okay,
But if you bring it up, I don't know if you guys can do that.
I've got it. It's actually on the screen at the moment. It's on the screen at the moment. It means to keep, and I've got the meanings up, and this is from the Gesenius Hebrew Chaldees lexicon. This is where I got the meanings from.
Which lexicon? Sorry.
There's a Gesenius Hebrew Chaldee lexicon.
Okay.
I don't know if you come across that.
No, I haven't got that one.
Okay.
I've got the Brown
lexicon.
Sorry.
How have you studied Hebrew but you don't have Gesenius' lexicon? I'm a bit confused by that.
Well, I don't have that lexicon, so I do have a lexicon.
No. Have you accessed Gesenius' lexicography or no?
Yes, when I was studying, but that was like 5 years ago.
Okay, thank God, because it sounded to me like you said to Dr. Imran you didn't know who that was.
No, I don't. No, I don't have that one.
Okay,
sorry.
okay. Please continue, Dr. Imran.
So in that lexicon, it specifically in explaining the meaning of the word Hajj or Hagag in Hebrew, it refers to the Arabic within that. It says the Arabic Hajj go to Mecca as Hajj or pilgrimage to keep the festival. So the lexicon itself tells you that this is the same meaning of the word Hajj in Arabic.
Okay.
Do you understand that?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Okay, so the words not only have the same roots, they mean the same thing in the languages.
Okay.
Okay, so that's the first thing. So
Yep.
we didn't misrepresent. There wasn't a misrepresentation. It was actually just a clarification of the reality that these words are the same root words within the language, and they actually have the same. They refer to the pilgrimage or the festival. And actually, it refers to the Arabic. It says literally Arabic Hajj, to go to Mecca as a Hajj or pilgrimage to keep the festival. And this is within the Gesenius's lexicon itself.
Okay. So
Now the other. So then the other question now.
Yeah.
Can you tell me how the Hajj Sukkot is carried out? The Hagag Sukkot in the Hebrew. How is it carried out? How is it done?
So that was not specified in Tanakh.
It's not specified where. Sorry.
In Tanakh, the Old Testament. I would say Old Testament. The Hebrews would say Tanakh.
How would you find out about it?
In recent speculations, but not
How would you
ancient.
find? What's the source of finding out how customs were carried out or festivals were carried out? How would you go? You've heard of the Mishnah?
Yes.
What's the Mishnah?
I've heard of it. I don't know.
Okay. So if you went to safaria.org, you can get the Mishnah Shukuk, and it will tell you there, chapter 4, verse 5, talking about the going around the altar and on the different days. It's a 7-day festival.
What is
and I'm quoting, it was customary to take 1 circumambulation around the altar on each day of the Shukut and 7 circumambulations on the 7th day.
Okay. And
what would happen is, sorry, say that again. I didn't hear you.
That's right. Where was that information obtained?
I'll put the link
in.
So
how do you know that? How do you know that this is accurate representation of what it was used for in Exodus 5:1 and Hagag? How do you know?
Because it's referring to the Shukut, the Hajj Shukut, which is literally the festival that's mentioned. Let me go back to Exodus 5:1 for you.
Yeah.
Because I quote Exodus 5:1 and Exodus 12:14, and then I went on to quote also Exodus 34:23 and Deuteronomy 16:13 to 16, which talks about the 3 different festivals, including the Hajj Sukkot. Yeah, well, it's referring to it as the festival of the tabernacles, the Hajj, the Hagag Sukkot. In my poor pronunciation of Hebrew. So literally, it's talking about that particular festival. Now, Mishnah in chapter 4, verse 5, talks about going around the altar 7 times on the 7th day as part of the festival.
Okay.
Yeah. So not only is the word the same, not only is the word the same word with the same meaning for the same type of event, the characteristics of the event itself that are being referred to are surprisingly similar with the 7 circumambulations, because for Muslims we circumambulate the Kaaba 7 times.
Yeah.
And this is literally mentioned. So the point that I was making to the person that I was speaking to when I gave this information was that us often put forward by Christians that this circumambulating the Kaaba was a pagan thing that then the Muslims adopted. Now, I know in Christian history, many things like the 25th of December and Easter and all of these things were adopted from pagan origins. This is not something that happened in Islam. So what we have in Islam is we are referring back to, so this was, the Muslims believe the Kaaba was something established by Abraham and his son Ishmael. Yeah. At one point, maybe even before that, by Adam alayhi salam. But let's talk about Abraham and Ishmael alayhi salam. Is there anything that refers to that being the case, even from non-Muslim sources? Let me find you something. Where is that gone? So you've heard of the Samaritan book of the Secrets of Moses. Have you heard of that? 3rd century BCE.
The Samaritan book of the Secrets
of Moses.
I'm sorry, I didn't know.
The Asatir. It's a 3rd century BCE document, and within that it talks about how Ishmael, who was obviously the son of Abraham, and his son, they built or rebuilt the Kaaba. So there are references to the fact that this is where the Kaaba originated from, i.e. that lineage through Abraham and Isaac. Sorry, Ishmael. Yeah.
So
And
the
then
third century
and then what
BC has this Sorry, I just want to make sure.
Sure.
Understanding what you're saying. I do take this very seriously. I respect you guys very much, and I do want to hear everything. Now, you're saying that 300 BC there was recognition, because this is something I've talked to Ahmed about. He couldn't answer it. This is why he wanted me on this forum. 300 BC, there was recognition of this temple. What do you call it? The Kaaba. What do you call it? A temple, or?
It's not a temple. It's a Kaaba. So what?
Okay, okay. Because the Jews have always called it a temple.
Sure, I understand. Kaaba just literally means cube. Yeah, that's what it's basically referring to.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not talking about recognition. This presentation was about the history of the Kaaba. So one of the things that I was mentioning was that have people previously, prior to Islam, mentioned the Kaaba, and I've got a couple of sources, and one of the sources that specifically talks about Ishmael and his eldest son in reference to the Kaaba is the Samaritan book of the Secrets of Moses. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's what I was referencing in that point. So going back to the original point that I was making, which was that the term Hajj is the equivalent is found within the Hebrew Old Testament.
Okay.
It's the same word that's used in the Arabic with the same meaning. Yeah, literally with the same meaning. And the circumambulation around the Kaaba 7 times is something that was also carried out in the Hajj, so called the festival of the tabernacles, where on the 7th day, the seven circumambulations, which is mentioned in the Mishnah. Now, I've posted in the private chat the link for the Mishnah. You can read it for yourself, that this is something that would happen. And the point here was that this whole event, the Hajj itself, is not a pagan. It's not a pagan thing. So I think, to be honest with you, I think far from misrepresenting, with a little bit of research and digging, we've tried to accurately portray the information in a way that people can understand Islam so some of the festivals and pilgrimages that take place in the context of the monotheism of the Jews beforehand.
There is far more than just circumventing the Kaaba. I mean, you have the throwing of the stones and they're kissing this black stone. For me, which is probably the biggest stumbling block of Islam, is kissing an object. The same reason so against Catholicism, because of this idolatry.
Okay, so let me before Ijaz comes on to talk specifically about the Paul issue with James. Let me just answer this question about the stones, because it's within the same presentation. Yeah. So let me just find that. Let me just bring this back up. Okay. So I'm reading Genesis 18. I'm going to just 3 slides, guys, and that's it, and I'll move on. So Genesis 28:18. Early the next morning, this is after obviously wrestling with the angel. Early the next morning, Jacob took the stone he had placed under his head and set it up as a pillar, and poured oil on top of it. He called that place Beth-El, which means the house of God. Though the city used to be called Luz. Then Jacob made a vow, saying, "If God will be with me and watch over me on this journey I am taking, and will give me food to eat and clothes to wear, so that I return safely to my father's house, so then the Lord will be my God. And this stone I have set up as a pillar will be God's house. And all that you give me, I will give you a 10th." So this is an example of Jacob setting up a stone as a pillar as part of God's house. Yeah. Now I'm going to talk about. You've heard of the Ivan Hastia?
The which? Sorry.
The Ivan Hastia?
No.
The foundation stone? You've not heard of this?
Oh, sorry. The foundation stone for. You mean the the black foundational stone from the Kaaba. Is
No,
this
no.
what you're referring to,
No,
Yannick?
no.
Or okay, what are we talking about?
So we're talking about this is from the Mishnah as well. We're talking about the stone that you find on the western wall in Jerusalem, which the temple was built up atop. So let me read from the Mishnah. So the world was not created until God took a stone called the EFDawah and threw it into the depths where it was fixed from above till below, and from it the world expanded it to the center point of the world, and on this spot stood the Holy of Holies. Yeah. Again, a stone situated in the Holy of Holies called the Shestia, and it's revealed by the early prophets, i.e. David and Samuel. Now, if you go to the Western Wall, you see why do the Jews go to the Western Wall and kiss it?
I don't agree with that either.
No, I'm asking a question to you. I'm asking a question because what the claim is really paganism, and it's referring to the black stone. And what I'm trying to show that this isn't the case. Now, the reason for going to the Western Wall, because actually it's the closest you can get to the foundation stone, and what you even 3 or 4
sorry.
Sorry. Say. I can't hear you because we're talking over each other.
Wall?
Yeah, the Western Wall.
Sorry, is that the Western Wall? Is that not the only remaining wall? I thought it was the only remaining wall left from the temple that was torn down. Was it? Am I mistaken about that?
I don't think it's relevant to the discussion we're having. If it's the only one, or if there are 6 more walls, I don't think it would make a difference to the discussion. Can you hear me?
Yeah, he just went to find a stone. He'll be back when he finds it.
So this and this stone is regarded as a holy thing, and what happens is that the Jews, they go to the nearest they can get to this stone, and they kiss this area, and they do all sorts of things. People leave. I mean, some things are added on to the traditions. They leave sort of things inside the wall. And this is an image you can see. Let me just try and zoom into this of the. Let me just try and. This is literally the foundation stone that you can see that's represented here. Now, the point. What's the point I'm making here with all this? The point here I'm making is that the things that you're talking about, setting up stones as places that are linked to the house of God, we see this in Genesis 20:18. There's even a foundation stone which even Jews to this day will try to get close to and kiss, which is near the western wall of Jerusalem. Now, I don't think that anyone thinks any Jew would think that the stone itself is something that is the creator or divine or being worshipped, and in the same way that the black stone is something that simply has the qualities of being given the attribute of being able to absorb sin. Now because the way that we understand it, that it was a white stone that became black because it absorbed sin, and actually non-Muslims who've sneaked their way into the Kaaba, there've been a few of them. I've listed a few here. They've from Richard Francis Burton to other people whose names I'm going to have difficulty pronouncing because I can't read very well at the moment, Austrians, etc. From the 1800s onwards have gone in there, and what they've noted is that this is a silvery grey, a black external stone with a silvery grey interior, almost like a white, with the exception of the face. And so we have this. We have something again that holds a function. Now, can you do the Hajj without touching the stone? Yes. When Umar radiallahu anhu, when he may God be pleased with him, when he saw the stone, what did he say? He said that I don't believe that you have any power to do good for me or not, and I kiss you simply because this is something the Prophet required of us. Now, the stone itself has no function. So a good way to test it would be, Timothy, is to take the stone away and see what would happen to the Hajj. That would be a good test, yes?
which it was taken away, and I
Absolutely.
know that they still did Hajj without the stone. I do know that, but it's still it's a stone that has come down from heaven, which is kissed, and is going to be a voice at the end of the age, which declares, who. Sorry, I could be wrong. Who's kissed
I think
it?
you're wrong.
Right?
So
Okay.
Timothy, what happens is that in 930, the reason the cut stone was taken was because people thought that if we took the stone, that the pilgrimage, which is financially something that's quite beneficial for whoever has the Hajj happening near them, they would take it, and then the Hajj would revert to them because people would come to where the stone is, because in their mind it was the same thinking that you're presenting, or some Christians present. Now, the stone was taken. It was set up in another building, which the person called Masjid al-Dirar, and the intention was to redirect the Hajj, and it didn't happen. And it was there for 23 years, and the Hajj didn't change. So what that tells you is that it's the stone is insignificant in the sense of what the Hajj is. Do you understand? So you can do the Hajj without coming anywhere near the black stone. It just marks a position. The stone itself has an ability which God has given it, but it's nothing. It itself is nothing. Do you understand?
Then why does it declare? So is that true, though, that it declares who has kissed it at the end of time?
I haven't come across that personally. So and I don't know the totality of the information available about that. So to be honest with you, I don't know. But even if let's just give this example. So we have statements in the Hadith that the Quran itself will declare that this person read me at such and such time. These are just recountings recounting of deeds that you have done, so that that we know the one who are being judged, that our judgment is fair and just. Is to give us a sense of, because God could say, I know everything, and my judgment is just, and we would have to accept that. But having the evidence presented to you is another level of assurity for you as an individual that your judgment is very nuanced and just for you. So I think somebody's put here, some brothers put here, show him a picture of the phylacteries, which I wasn't going to, but I have an image of the phylacteries here actually. But we won't, and it's just, I think it just goes to highlight that. It just goes to highlight that actually this whole idea of winding 7 times is something that you see even in the tradition. So the phylacteries are, if people have seen they're worn on the head of the Jews, and in that there are some verses from the Torah, and they wind this sort of silver, and this is obviously the shape of the Kaaba, this cube to the side of the forehead. And then they wind
I know the tradition.
So this is just the tefillin is around 7 times around the forearm, and it's just to give the reason for showing it. It just gives this the idea this 7 times winding or 7 times circumambulating is another level of a type of worship that sort of we see throughout both traditions. I think I've spoken for a long time, but what I would say is I don't think we've been unfair or misrepresented any information at all. I understand you have some objections about stones, but again, this refers back to the practice that we find amongst the Jews, even in the New Testament. Definitely. Sorry,
but does that make it good just because Jews do it? Does that make it good? Because I mean, you guys disagree with a lot of things that the Jews do.
So if I could just interject for a second, Timothy, to be perfectly honest, your initial claim that there was that we misrepresented the Hajj, I think we've resolved that issue. Is that correct?
Yes, you have resolved the.
Okay, so now in terms of Timothy, to be respectful of the time, in terms of whether you feel it's adequate to do or not is actually a completely separate issue altogether. If I could just get Ijaz to come in there and discuss the Council of Jerusalem and whether we've been misrepresenting that, and hopefully we can clear that up as well. Ijaz, please.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, before I continue, I just want to understand what Timothy's definition of pagan is.
I suppose practices that are worship of a false god.
Okay, well, Christianity is pagan to me by that definition. Would that be correct?
And in what way?
Well, you worship a false god.
So I worship Yahweh. So why is he a false god? I thought that we worship, I've been told several times that we worship the same God.
You sure you worship Yahweh, the one that the Canaanites reaffirmed for you, or the one that the later Jews developed? Which one?
I worship Yahweh, the original from Tanakh and from the Holy Bible. What do you mean? Sorry.
How do you know that's
sort of break
sorry?
it up
How
a
do you
little
know
bit
that's the? How do you know that's the original one? I'm sorry. How do you know that that's the original one? He's having phone issues. He's in Australia. That's
I'm not
understandable. Give him a second to return.
Sorry.
Slide. Right. Are you back, Timothy? Are you back?
What's wrong?
Can you hear us? Yeah. Pull over to the side of the road. Pull over.
Yeah, I'm back. Sorry, did I go? Did I? I'm pulling
Yeah,
over. I'm pulling over.
Yeah, it's best if you pull over. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pulled over. Yeah.
Right. That's good. How do you know that's the original Yahweh that you're worshiping? Okay, he pulled over and the connection ended.
I think Timothy
keep
pulled
driving
over.
then.
I think he pulled over in an area where there's a lot of blocks of flats or something, and it's all blocked his connection. Maybe if he drives again, it just if you can. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be fruitful because Timothy's not here. I suppose he needs to hear the events leading to the.
You could always watch it back, I think.
Yeah, okay, he does. Why don't you go into the Council of Jerusalem?
Yeah, no, I'm asking about the pagan thing because
I know, but he's not here, Jas. So unfortunately, you can't continue that conversation.
So the thing is, I think it is incorrect for any Christian to come to us and say that we misrepresented what happened at that council. Now, it is true that Paul was called to that council. I don't see any evidence where that's not the case. And he was called to account for the things that he was teaching. Now, what some Christians do is they say, well, let's read Acts together. And what they end up agreeing to is not about or relevant to all the laws, but some of the laws. And so I say, let's go to a neutral source. Who is the epistle to the Hebrews written, Brother Abbas? Who is that written to? The Gentiles or the Hebrews? It's in the name. Brother Abbas?
Sorry, say again. I didn't hear the question.
The epistle to the Hebrews, we're going to a neutral source. The epistle to the Hebrews, is that written to the Gentiles or to the Hebrews?
To the Hebrews.
And can you just do me a favor and read Hebrews chapter 7, verse 13?
Let me bring it up.
Right, because apparently Paul or his community never taught about not obeying the law. So let's just read this. I could be wrong.
Sorry, say again.
Chapter 7, verse 13.
Verse 30.
1-3.
Sorry, 13. Beg your pardon. Okay. Okay, 7:13. He of whom these things are said belonged to a different tribe, and no one from that tribe ever
12,
served.
Verse 12. Verse 12. One verse back. Verse 12.
Oh, verse 12. Sorry. Okay, so I thought that was. So I thought that was hold on. That was a bit different. That was something different. Okay. For when there is a change in the priesthood, there is necessarily a change in the law as well.
Oh, but who's the epistle to the Hebrews written to again? Just reminds me.
Well, I think it was to the Hebrews, right?
Not to the Gentiles, right?
No.
So then this person writing to the Hebrews, is he telling them to keep the law or that there's a change to the law?
Yeah, change the law.
Okay, thank you. I think that I rest my case. Thank you.
Yeah. But I think the on sort of a more detailed response to what Timothy was saying, Timothy's sort of arguing that Paul used to just visit Jerusalem, and this just happened to be one of those times when he was visiting. I thought that James sent Peter, didn't he, to go and fetch Paul, basically.
I remember
then-
from the top of my head. I'll have to check.
If we look at Acts, and doesn't it say that people have gathered here because we have heard, or they've heard, that you preach that the law, that we're not under the law anymore. I
remember this.
Yeah, so
but
can you
whether
bring
or not-
can you bring that up? It's in Acts
Yeah.
about the Council of Jerusalem. I think it's probably better if we do read it, because it doesn't suggest from that reading.
Give me a second, Abbas. I'll be right back. Give me 1 minute. I
No
have a phone
problem,
call
no
to take.
problem. So I hope Timothy finds a connection again. But from that reading, it doesn't suggest that Paul was just somehow visiting Jerusalem, happened to pop into the temple, and then this sort of question, ensued, or this ensued. What it actually shows. Hi, Timothy. I'm glad that you've found your connection back again. We just lost you there for a bit. I think maybe you were near tall buildings. Maybe if you sort of park up somewhere where it's a little bit maybe open and flat, perhaps we won't lose you next time. So Brother Ijaz is going to bring up the actual verses in relation to Acts when we're talking about the Council of Jerusalem. To be fair, Timothy, from my reading, it didn't seem that it was just Paul visiting Jerusalem. It seems something, it seems something a lot more, planned than that, because there were people that were gathered there as well, because they'd heard that Paul was quoting certain things. Let me see if I can bring up the verse in Acts actually before Ijaz gets back. Let's
Can
have a
I
look.
sort of give you some background knowledge to that? Can I give you some
Yeah.
background knowledge?
Please do.
Yeah, so basically what's happened is they knew he was coming. He was supposed to visit Jerusalem.
How did they know?
Of course
How did they know?
Because they wrote letters to each other, and he said that he was going to come there. If you read previous on Acts, if you read the preceding chapters to that situation, that he was going there, and he came there with Luke. That's why Luke says, and they met with us. So that when they gathered, they said, we hear you've been doing this, and they said, we hear that you are teaching Jews against the law
The
of
dietary
Moses.
laws and circumcision.
And that's right. And so then they straight after that they follow by saying, but according to the Gentiles, we wrote something. And if you do read, preceding chapters to Acts, that they were having this argument with what to do in this situation for Gentiles about being circumcised and all this sort of stuff. And so then they wrote a letter saying, the only thing that we're going to, only burden we're going to put on them straight away is to, not eat sacrificed things to idols, and not blood, and not strangled, and to keep away from sexual immorality. So that was for the Gentiles. So he was not teaching Jews to do that. And he even does say that he keeps the law. And so and then does commit to that.
Okay, so I think it's Acts. I think it's Acts 21, isn't it? Where this starts. Is that right? So we'll read from Acts 20. Let's have a look. Assalamu alaikum, Nazam. You all right?
Assalam. Hi, everyone.
Hi there, Nazam. We're just discussing the Council of Jerusalem. So
Acts 15.
Acts 15, is that right? Is it starts from Acts
15?
Okay, so it says, after these days we got ready and went up to Jerusalem, and some of the disciples from Caesarea went with us, bringing us to the house of Mnason of Cyprus, an elderly disciple with whom we should lodge. Then Paul visits James. When we had come to Jerusalem, the brothers received us gladly. On the following day, Paul went in with us to James, and all the elders were present. After greeting them, He related one by one the things that God had done among the Gentiles through his ministry. And when they heard it, they glorified God. And they said to him, "You see, brothers, how many thousands there are among the Jews of those who have believed. They are all zealous for the law. And they have been told about you that you teach all the Jews who are among the Gentiles to forsake Moses." In other words, forsaking the law of Moses. I think we've lost Timothy there. I think for maybe he can watch it back in the later. Who amongst the Gentiles and forsake Moses, telling them not to circumcise their children or walk according to our customs. What then is to be done? They will certainly hear that you have come. Do therefore what we tell you. We have 4 men who are under the vow. Take these men and purify yourself along with them. Okay, so now he's being told that the Nazirite vow is going to be taken by these 4, and we want you to also be purified with them. In other words, take the vow with them, right? So do therefore here that you declare therefore do therefore what we tell you. We have 4 men who are under the vow. Take these men and purify yourself along with them, and pay their expenses, so that they may shave their heads. Thus all will know that there is nothing in what they have been told about you. In other words, that what they've been told, that you're teaching the people not to be circumcised, the Jews, and follow the dietary laws. To show that this is not the case, to prove this is not the case, we want you to basically show them that you've taken the Nazirite vow, but that you yourself also live observant or observance of the law. In other words, that you are still under the law. But as for the Gentiles who have believed, we have sent a letter with our judgment that they should abstain from what has been sacrificed to idols, and from blood, and from what has been strangled, and from sexual immorality. Then Paul took the men, and the next day he purified himself along with them, and went into the temple, giving notice when the days of purification would be fulfilled, and the offering presented for each one of them. Right? I think that's probably enough. Is that right?
That was way too much detail.
Sorry. I just thought because Christians often tell us that we don't give the context, we don't give the detailed verses and what have you.
Yeah.
What that seems to very clearly signify, Ijaz, is that Paul is basically summoned. The elders are present. He's told that they've heard.
Let's pause there. Pause there. There was a disagreement with Paul being summoned.
Yeah.
So what I would suggest is everyone read Acts chapter 15, verse 2. Right? And I'm going to read it in the New English Translation. It says, when Paul and Barnabas had a major argument and debate with them, the church appointed Paul and Barnabas and some others from among them to go up to meet with the apostles and elders. The church appointed. You go to the word in the Greek, right? And it says here, tasso. It means to determine, to put, to designate, to send. Literally, it says it was primarily a military term, meaning to draw up in order, arrange in place, assign or point, command or order. Now, I don't know about you, but that sounds totally optional.
I'm not following.
I'm
though,
sorry, I have a call to take again. I'm sorry, this keeps happening.
That's okay. Timothy, did you hear Ijaz giving us context as to why Paul was in fact summoned, not just visiting Jerusalem? Did you hear that?
Yeah, but I didn't. Sorry, I'm just not understanding like how that was. I just
So
didn't. Could you explain it a little bit further?
In Acts 15:2, it basically talks about how Paul and Barnabas had a major fallout. Effectively, it had no small dissension. In other words, it was a big and a debate with them. Paul and Barnabas and some of the others.
Because of Mark, yeah.
Say again.
Because of Mark, they had. So Mark was Barnabas's cousin, and so Mark didn't go with them to certain churches. He sort of deserted them. He said, you know, they were all going together, Mark, Barnabas, and Paul, right? They were all together. And then Mark said, well, I'm not going to go with you guys anymore. And so when Barnabas at this point says, we're going to take Mark, Paul's like, no, he shouldn't come with us because he didn't go with us in the beginning to establish these churches. So he doesn't deserve basically to come with us now and visit these churches. So
Where does the text say that?
If it's so, I'm just basically because I'm driving. I don't have my Bible in front of me. I'm not reading it. I'm going by memory.
Memory
Actually,
referring to what then?
late.
Does the memory give you a chapter or book? What does your memory tell you about it? Who tells you that this was Mark?
So this over Mark. You mean over Mark? The discussion was over Mark. So that was in those verses.
It doesn't say that.
I'm about to pull over it.
Yeah, please do. Pull over and find it for us.
Yeah. Well, I'm just running a little bit late for work. Sorry. I do find this extremely important, so I have been sort of pushing on, but I'm actually already running late now. But that was the disagreement that Barnabas was having with Paul. Sorry.
Yeah, you said over Mark, so I'm gonna look for that and wait for it.
Yeah. If you Google it, it will probably bring it up.
It's okay. I have you with your memory.
Okay. Just 1 second. All right.
I might have to take a call in between, brothers. Forgive me. You know the situation. So I'll be listening. Still be listening.
Nazem, feel free to join in because this is an area where obviously you're...
Okay. Yeah, I'm actually lost. I'm not sure what you guys are discussing. If I can context.
So just to give you back, so Timothy is saying that the idea that that Paul didn't stop adhering to the law, and he didn't teach Jews to stop adhering to the law, and that he wasn't summoned to the Third Council of Jerusalem. These are the just to sort of give the most basic points that Timothy's saying. And what are your thoughts on that, Nazem?
Yeah, my understanding is the book of Acts depicts the Apostle Paul as an orthodox or law-abiding Jew. So Paul's interested in preaching the resurrection of Jesus in Acts. But if you read some of his other letters, which are more direct, especially his letter to the Galatians, there he has a hostile attitude towards the Mosaic law. There he sees it as slavery, and he's like, if the law could have saved you, then there wouldn't have been any point for Jesus to have died and be crucified. And he's like freedom from the law is like as if being free from slavery. So why would you want to go back to slavery by keeping or obeying the law? But yeah, in the book of Acts, Luke wants to show that there's this continuation between the Jerusalem church, the Jewish believers in Jesus, and Paul, because Paul was a new man on the scene. And so Luke wants to show that there's this consistency, because in Luke's time, Christianity was Gentile or non-Jewish. And so Luke wanted to explain that how is it that Christianity started from Jewish humble origins? How is it that the Jews are not Christians, but instead the Gentiles are? So Luke wants to somehow show that Christianity is a natural successor to Judaism or to the religion of Moses and Jesus. But Paul does say in 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verses 19 and 20, that to those who are under the law, I become one who's under the law, even though I do not regard myself to be under the law. So that does directly.
Yes, so you can't take things out of context once again. So basically, he's saying we're not saved by works. but the salvation. And Islam has a very similar thing in that you are not saved. Like I was talking to Ahmed, and he was saying, because I don't speak Arabic, right? If I was to learn Arabic and then be trying as hard as I can to read the Arabic Quran in Arabic, then I would be counted higher than someone who's speaking it fluently, who was born with it. Okay, so it's like trying to say that because I'm not following the law perfectly or not doing things perfectly, that you're not saved by these things, but by your effort, by your heart. Okay. And so this is the context that that Paul is saying. We're not saved by perfect law abiding, because no one can live perfectly by the law. We are saved by what God has done for us in forgiving us through Jesus Christ. So that you're not, but that doesn't, and he explains this in Romans, that just because you aren't saved by works doesn't mean that we don't do works. In the same sense in Islam, that you're still putting that a huge effort to do everything right. And Muhammad said, if I was to become a Muslim, there's so much you sort of have to learn straight away, but God doesn't care about that at that time, because you're still learning. You're not going to do everything perfectly straight away.
Timothy,
this is what Paul's getting to. Yeah.
Timothy, what did Paul go to the Council of Jerusalem? Yes or no?
There was a council held because he was coming.
Okay, did he attend that council?
Yes, he did.
And what did the disciples say to him about the law that he's teaching the Jews not to follow circumcision and dietary laws? What did they say to him about that?
To prove that this is not true, do this.
No. What did they say that they heard? What did they hear about
that
Paul?
You are teaching against, you are teaching Jews all over to go against the law of Moses. Yes.
Okay, and was Paul doing that?
No, he was not.
Oh, so Paul was not teaching the Jews that they don't need to be circumcised and not follow dietary laws. But why did the disciples think that he had been preaching that?
I missed that, sorry.
Why did the disciples think that he had been preaching that?
No, they didn't think that he was preaching that. They said there's rumors going about that this is what you are doing. There are misconceptions about what he was saying.
Okay, so what was the point of him taking the Nazirite vow if these were just rumors and lies, and he had actually not been
to prove to everyone that he was still keeping the law, because he is a Jew and he calls himself a Jew of Jews, born in the tribe of Benjamin, all this sort of stuff.
Okay, and was he under the law, and was he teaching others as well, that they don't need to be under the law?
So he was teaching Gentiles that they don't need to get circumcised and do certain things. They said they have to do certain things. For example, they can't eat things that are strangled or blood and stay away from sexual immorality. They were not putting any further burden on them straight away at that point. And so it's,
Nazam, was Paul teaching the Jews that they don't need to be circumcised and they don't need to follow dietary laws, or was this just a rumor, as Timothy is saying, that had no grounding and no evidence, basically?
Yeah, so Paul is actually clear in his letter to the Galatians, especially the first 2 chapters. He says basically that if what could save you, then Christ died to no avail. And he says that if he was to circumcise, then he wouldn't be a servant of Christ. Even though in the book of Acts, in Acts chapter 6, he does circumcise his student Timothy in order to please the Jews. But in Galatians, he says to the effect that if he was trying to please men, then he wouldn't be a servant of Christ or servant of God. I can't remember exactly. But in Ephesians chapter 2, verse number 14 and 15, Paul is explicit, if you believe that Paul wrote Ephesians. He says that Christ abolished the law with all its commandments and regulations. So there Paul clearly says that he's with the commandments and the rules that are in the law in Ephesians 15, because there Paul sees the law divider between Jew and non-Jews, or between Gentile and non-Jews. And Paul says that Jesus did away with the commandments and regulations. Also, you have.
That's taken out of context. I'm sorry, guys. I really do have to leave because of work. I'm just really running late. But that once again, that is sort of taking things out of context, because what he's saying is we're not living by the law. You have to read the whole thing, and I can do the same thing, taking things out of the Quran out of context. You have to read the whole thing to understand what he's trying to say is that we are not under the law. And if you're circumcising for the point of saying this is what's saving me, then that is wrong. If you think this is what's saving you, the law is what's saving you, then you are wrong. It is not the law that saves. It is through salvation through Jesus Christ that saves. If you're trying to save yourself through the works, you will fail. And if I'm trying to please man, like doing things like rabbis would, they do all these things to, praying in public and all this to show how holy they are. And even Jesus points out, they've got their reward because they're trying to please man rather than God. And the whole point that Paul's trying to make is that we need to try and please God, not man, in our actions, in what we're doing. So our actions will come. If we love God, those actions will follow, but they're not. You're not saved through those actions. This is the stress point, and you have to see why he's writing these letters to these people is because what they're teaching at that time is saying this is what's going to save you. So these are the reasons these letters were written.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. I understand what you're doing is it's interesting, because what you're saying is that it's not what you're saying. You're not really reading from the text. You're giving your interpretation of the idea that the reason that that Paul is talking down the law, because it's not the law itself that saves you, but actually your faith in the crucifixion of Jesus on the cross.
He explains it in other books.
Sure, one second. But what you said earlier was the action still manifest because of your faith. So you still be adhering to the law, understanding that it's not the law, but it's your faith and your actions in conjunction, because the fact that the actions are adhering to the law is a manifestation of your faith is what saves you. If God had given you commands to follow things and do certain things, the laws, what you're saying is that you would do them because God has told you to do them, but what actually is saving you is God who's forgiving you, and etc. But that doesn't explain the removing of the law. That doesn't explain
it's not the removing of the law. But I'm sorry, guys. Sorry, Imran.
Are you leaving, Timothy?
I'm so sorry. Yes, I really have to leave. I'm so sorry.
Okay,
I'd love to pick this up on another conversation. I'm so sorry.
Apologies for making you late.
Yeah, not a problem, Timothy. Timothy, basically, I hope that when you hear the recording afterwards, you realize that I don't think we did actually misrepresent. But, by all means, do come on again next time. And one of the things I would recommend you to do, of course, is just read Matthew 6:21. I would urge you to 7:21. Sorry, to 23. I think that does explain to you about why the law is actually very important. But anyway, have a lovely day, Timothy. We'll speak to you soon for sure.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. We find this in Matthew 7:21 to 23. Not everyone who said, this is Jesus talking, by the way, alayhi salam, apparently according to the Bible, of course. It says, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, shall enter the kingdom of heaven, but he who does the will of my Father in heaven. Many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in your name, cast out demons in your name, and done many wonders in your name? And then I will declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you who practice lawlessness. In other words, you didn't practice the law. You did not practice the law. You didn't observe the law. And I think, Nazam, you've indicated quite clearly that there is a huge disparity between what people are claiming, Christians are claiming, that no, Paul actually was under the law. He first of all, Paul wasn't a Jew anyway, but apparently he was under the Jewish law. Well, from his letters, it seems
Roman citizen, but I believe he was a Jew, but he wasn't. He was born in diaspora.
Okay.
So outside of Palestine.
Outside of Palestine. Okay.
He's thought to be born in Turkey.
Okay, so he apparently born in Turkey. So I'm corrected there. But the point here is that from Paul's own writings, it appears that the law isn't important. That it's not the circumcision it's the circumcision of the heart that's necessary. And this notion that somehow, no, he was just emphasizing how it's not the observing of the obligations that will gain you paradise, but it's God's mercy, God's, as we would say, God's rahmah or whatever, right? But that's not the case. From his own words, that's not the case. And the Council of Jerusalem, I don't think you could actually, when you read through that, simply argue that this was somehow a rumor that they heard, and then they made him take the Nazirite vow and pay for the others to take the Nazirite vow as well, shave his head and do the sacrifice, because I think they wanted to correct Paul, and that's why you take the vow. It's effectively a resolution of your sin of preaching to the Jews that you're not under the Mosaic law anymore. But anyway, do you want to elaborate anything more on that, Nazam?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, the Bible or the New Testament doesn't really present a consistent picture with regards to the what did Paul regards with regards to the law, because he tends to oscillate and vacillate when it comes to keeping the law. So in his earlier letters, like Galatians, he tends to be hostile and critical of the law. So like in Galatians chapter 3 verse 23, and also Galatians chapter 4 verses 8 to 9, he describes the time as being under the law, as if they were in bondage and in slavery. And so then Jesus came along, and then he released them or freed them from bondage or captivity. But then you have his other letters like Romans, and Romans there, he has a more kind of like friendly attitude towards the law, because you have verses like Romans chapter 2, I think it's verse 20, where Paul says, it's not hearers of the law that will be declared righteous, but it's doers of the law. And so there, Paul appears to be saying that you're still supposed to follow the law. And what Timothy was doing was he was appealing to Romans. So he was appealing to that later stage or that later part in Paul's life. Whereas we were referring to like Galatians, which is an earlier letter, where Paul had a different attitude. But later on in his life, he did a U-turn and was like more friendly towards the law, because I think maybe later on in his life, he realized that you do need law in your life. Like you do need some form of rules and governance, especially when there's a community of people. You need some kind of like organization. And so
where was the Holy Ghost in all of this when Paul was toing and froing from the law and no law? What was the Holy Ghost confused as well?
They claim to be inspired, when he's writing his epistles or his letters in the New Testament. And also when it comes to the New Testament as well, Paul, he basically says that, things like Corinthians have things like somewhere in between. So like he would appeal to the law in order to make his case, but then at other times as well, he says that I'm speaking not the Lord, and other times he says I receive a commandment from the law. So yeah, I guess sometimes it's difficult to pin down, but yeah.
And I think it's very telling in the second coming of Jesus when he basically tells people to go away. I don't know you, and then he says you're a people of lawlessness. You don't follow the laws. Yeah, I mean, who are the followers of Jesus today who don't follow the laws? It's the Christians.
In general, there are some Christians, like our friend Timothy, for example. He still believes in the law, that the law is meant to be followed. And Paul didn't actually teach that it was meant to not follow the law. But interesting, the reason why there's rumors that you find in the book of Acts that people heard that Paul was teaching against the law of Moses, those rumors obviously came from somewhere. They started from somewhere. And those appear to be like from Paul himself, because Paul does say, like in his earlier letters, like Galatians and Corinthians, and then you have Ephesians as well, which some think Paul may or may not have written, but Paul does say things like Christ has abolished the law and that the law is your bondage, and Christ has released us from slavery. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Pineda, we're going to get you on next. Can you just give me a thumbs up? Pineda? Pineda? Can you give me a thumbs up, Pineda? Okay, Pineda, you're not interacting with me, therefore I won't be able to get you on. Skeptic, if you put your camera on, it's a bit late, Pineda. Can you give me a wave now? Okay, lovely. You can come on next. You can leave your camera on or switch it off, whatever you prefer. Welcome to the stream, Pineda.
Yep.
Hi, Pineda. Welcome to the stream.
I'm on.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice, Pineda.
This guy came on other streams and he does similar things.
Yeah.
I think it speaks to his intelligence and
hilarious, really funny.
Because you can't be seen, Pineda. You're not on. You're not on. You're still holding your phone up to your camera, but actually you're not on the live stream.
Yeah.
And I think that if that's your best argument, then really, it's a sad state of affairs.
Naturalist, just give me a quick wave, please. Lovely. You're on next, mate. You can leave the camera on or switch it off, whatever you are comfortable with. Naturalist, welcome to the stream.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, if you could just speak a little bit louder. Your volume is really low.
Okay, I'll just put it a little bit closer. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Is that better?
You're still a bit low. If you can either turn the volume up or perhaps if you just speak a bit louder.
Okay, I've got sleeping babies in the background, so...
Okay, no problem. Okay, not a problem. Well, let's see if I can edit your sound on edit mic. Let's have a look. Let's see if I can bring it up a little bit. Let's see if that helps.
I can see you moving it.
Good. Okay,
Is that better?
That's clearer. Yeah, go ahead, Naturalist.
Cool. So hi guys. I think this is the first time I'm on your show.
No, I think we've spoken before.
Okay, cool. Because I've been watching many episodes. I obviously focus more on the atheist arguments. So obviously, by my name there, I am a philosophical naturalist, by which I mean that I do not believe that the supernatural world exists, that natural laws, and that includes emergent properties, are all that exist. And so, I actually wanted to come on tonight because of Dr. Imran, some of his arguments with the Alexander Vilenkin paper. So I would just like let's just clarify, what do we believe that paper says? What does it point to? Let's maybe expand a little bit on or clarify what we believe it points to.
Dr. Imran, you're on. Unmute yourself.
Sorry.
Stop drinking that coffee or tea or whatever it is. Oh, you're still muted, Imran.
Am I still muted now?
Now you're okay.
Okay. So, Naturalist, why don't you clarify? Because obviously I've already explained to Alexander, and it sounds like he heard the conversation. So why don't you explain, put your position forward, and then we can go from there.
Okay, so my position is that I believe a natural force, by which force I mean either energy, an energy field of some sort, created, and I'm kind of using that term loosely, created this universe. So by this universe, I mean the bubble that expanded at the singularity at the moment of the Big Bang. I do not count whatever is outside of this universe to be part of. Well, I mean, it obviously triggered. Well, to my view, it triggered the Big Bang, but it's but there is an energy field that a natural energy field that created the universe, our bubble universe. So yes, the Vilenkin paper, he's trying to prove, and especially with, for example, eternal inflation, that it is not eternal into the past. Okay, and pretty much everybody agrees with that. Even if you look at most, papers on eternal inflation, they're saying it started at one moment, but it is eternal into the future. Okay, so I agree with you. It's not eternal into the past. However, that paper doesn't speak to what happened before the Big Bang. Okay, and one of the, I would say, leading theories about how this universe actually began. I'm kind of like using that kind of loosely, because obviously some of this is not proven yet. Let me just find it very quickly. Just a very short paragraph that I'll read. Okay, false vacuum. So this is, and I'm just using Wikipedia so that we can find it very, very quickly. Okay, but it is actually a paper, and I'll refer to the paper after reading the statement. So on the Wikipedia page of inflation cosmology, you can search inflation cosmology. Under the section history, there's a subsection called false vacuum. At the bottom, the last sentence says, the universe could have been spontaneously created from nothing, no space, time, nor matter, by quantum fluctuations of metastable false vacuum caused by causing an expanding bubble of true vacuum. That is linked to a paper written in 2014 called Spontaneous Creation of the Universe from Nothing by Dongshan He, Dongfeng Gao, and Qingyi Kai, 2014, published in Physical Review, journals.aps.org. And that is my view. That's the position that I'll take.
What position are you? So this paper that you've read and which you said was not evidence.
It's one example.
Yeah, you've one example of a theory you've put forward. You've said it. I mean, it's amazing. So I want you to unpack this theory for me a little bit. Yeah, I'll put the philosophical naturalism to one side because that in itself, there are lots of issues with that for me personally. But this idea that tell me what a false vacuum is and tell me what a true vacuum is.
I don't actually fully understand because I'm not a physicist, okay? But what I understand, quite a lot of physicists have actually spoken about them, and Alex Valenkin has actually spoken about it as well. So what he calls our universe a bubble universe. So this bubble is started by a quantum fluctuation in false vacuum. So it is actually a proven thing.
No, this is a theory.
What I'm going to say is that part of this theory is actually proven, and it is actually something that happens in the sun. The way that the sun's nuclear fusion and fission reactions actually occur. I don't actually understand all of the physics behind it, but there is some kind of like jump in energy states that happens in the fusion and fission reactions actually inside the sun. So that part of it is actually proven, and it is something that actually happens.
What is proven by that? Because what you're trying to
state changes.
State changes is not the same as something coming from a quantum vacuum. The thing I want you to explain to me, because there's a part of this is, and I know I was doing this earlier, so I'm not going to criticize you too much for this, but we're appealing to theories that other authority figures are bringing. But what we're trying to do is we need to try and understand what's being said here. Now,
it's very difficult to understand some of these things because, like I say, I'm not a physicist.
So let's make it. So neither am I. But let's make this as easy as we can. Because you're saying you talked about something coming out of nothing, but you referred to that nothing as a false vacuum.
Yes.
So that's
not actually nothing.
Yeah. This is where we need to get language correct. Yeah. So when people make the claim that something coming from nothing, this is what no one says. No one says this. What they do is they redefine the term nothing for something else. Here, what's being referred to as some sort of quantum field, right?
A false vacuum.
Yeah. So this is a false
imagine
vacuum
space between atoms. There isn't actually something between the atoms, but there are fields of energy.
So
right?
a false vacuum is like saying a warm ice cube. It's so either it's nothing or there's something there.
Sure. And there's always something there. Yes. And there's always something there.
All right. So this is the thing now. So none of the theories that are put forward. So in that paper, what Valenkian was saying was that if you go back into the past geodesically, or however you want to go back in the past using the maths, we can't say that there was always something there.
That's not what he's saying.
Let's have a look at the paper again. Because if something is eternal in the past, that means there's always something there.
So that paper is trying to prove that eternal inflation is not eternal into the past. And that's what almost all physicists believe. So when they're saying eternal inflation, they're saying it started at the moment of the Big Bang, so it didn't go before that. Because there is another theory, because eternal inflation is actually used in two different contexts. One of the contexts was where eternal inflation has always happened into the past, like it is basically eternal into the past, right? And he was trying to prove that no, it started at the moment of the Big Bang.
Sorry, we're talking cross purposes here. Because this is not information at all. So what you're saying is that the universe had a beginning at some point. We agree with this, yeah.
Yeah.
Now the
agree.
point, yeah, so we're not disagreeing on that. So let's not sort of confuse the matter. We believe that the universe had a beginning. Yeah, no problem. So this is the point that we agree on. Now the point that you're bringing forward is actually that this was brought about by nothing, but that nothing is actually something, which is a quantum field or whatever you want to say. Yeah. So as a quantum fluctuation brought the theory about. The problem with this is it's just another chain in the link of things that need an explanation. So all you're positing is this is not from nothing. This is from a quantum event. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So the question is, any idea how that quantum event came about? What caused it? Why did it happen? Anything at all?
So quantum fluctuations happen all the time, right? And
Yes,
they are
that's
sporadic
but
for
they are-
example, virtual particles.
Sure.
Right.
No, I understand. So what the problem here is it's really important to understand that I'm not talking down to you. It's really important to understand that when we're talking about the events happening within this universe that we observe, yeah, quantum events, whatever that we can, however you want to look at them, now we're talking about something pre-inflation, it's a pre-universe, to use the term
pre-Big Bang.
Pre-Big Bang. Then you have to explain what's happening at that time. So what causes that quantum event? Where did that quantum event? Where did the quantum field come from in the first place that had the fluctuation? Because all you're doing is positing another type of matter or energy prior to this current inflation.
That is eternal.
Okay, so now we have a series of events that precede to infinity in the past, yeah, and internal in the past. We have an infinite regression, yeah.
Yes.
You understand? Now, what do you think about infinite regression?
So here's the thing. I understand that if you're going to say, well, you've got an infinite regression of events into the past. Here's the big difference. Time itself that we know, that we call time, only began at the moment of the Big Bang.
So that
time itself,
yeah, I understand.
Time itself, causality that we experience in this university began at the moment of the Big Bang.
I understand
but
what you're saying.
Time is irrelevant before the Big Bang.
Yeah, so this is why this is
the
often
chain of the causal chain doesn't come into.
I'm not talking about a causal chain.
Okay.
I'm talking about things that require an explanation. Yeah. So this is not a time related discussion. Yeah. So because what you're positing now is time started within the universe, but then you're saying there was a quantum fluctuation prior to that, because we have to use tenses in our language when we're speaking, right? You're
Sure.
saying prior to the time of the universe, the inflation occurring, there was some sort of quantum event that brought that inflation into existence, right? So you're already positing a series of events. Now I'm not to remove time from the equation. We talk about things. What explains this? What is this universe is dependent upon that fluctuation. You're saying it's a quantum fluctuation that happened. What is that quantum fluctuation dependent upon? Now, this is irrespective of time. We're talking about things that require an explanation. Those things are things that we would say are contingent. They require something else to explain their presence or their existence. This universe, you've said, the explanation for this universe, you believe, is a quantum fluctuation prior to, we use the word language, but it's explained by a quantum event that occurred before. And that goes on forever. So there was at some stage there is, so we end up in this, a series of an infinite regression of dependencies going back. This universe is dependent upon this, which is dependent upon this, which is dependent upon. So now you're in an infinite regression. What are your thoughts on infinite regressions?
The problem is that with the infinite regression, you are bringing in tenses, and the tenses are only valid up until the singularity.
No, I'm not bringing in time tenses.
Okay, the infinite regression, okay, is irrelevant. It is not applicable to quantum fluctuations that do not appear by all accounts to adhere to anything that we call tense or time or anything like that. So for example, radiation. We cannot, by any measure or any mean, know when an atom will radioactively decay. It is.
Why is that relevant?
It is because that shows that we cannot. Okay, this is just something that I thought about a long time ago.
Do you know what a half-life is?
Yes, of course. That's what I'm talking about. Half-life.
What is a half-life?
I mean, this is a measurement that a figure that we've come up with, that we've calculated based on radioactive decay of things.
That's not half-life.
If you take, for example, 1 kilogram of uranium, okay, the half-life would be that half of that would decay in X amount of time, let's say 4 billion years.
So this is we see a pattern of radiation in a length of time from different substances that are radioactive, a pattern. All you're saying by the example of radiation is that we don't know how it works. We just don't know. We can't predict using now current information, materials, instruments.
Well, I'm not actually saying that. I'm saying that we will never be able to predict
a lovely
a single atom.
Yeah, this is a lovely assumption that's being made. But all it's pointing towards is that we don't know how, and we can't predict when.
Oh, now you're using science of the gaps. I'm saying we won't be able to ever.
Yeah, but this is what I'm saying. This is not a scientific statement.
By all accounts, I believe scientists will say also that we will not be able to predict this. It is outside of the realm of our capabilities. Now, maybe even into the future.
So this is the thing. You're making an assertion about a future, the non-occurrence of a future event. It's an argument from ignorance. So the best we can say is we don't know how this mechanism occurs. But why is it something that is mechanistic? I'll tell you why. Because we have half-lives. We can sit down and say the half
averages. But that's just averages. That's not an individual atom.
No. The half-lives of materials are. We set our clocks by them. This is how we determine it. We set our clocks by the radioactive decay of materials. Well, this is how our clocks are set. How do we work out time? What's time measured in?
I mean, I think we're going like way off track now.
No. The point that I'm trying to make is quite important, because you're referring to the radioactive decay, and I've had this conversation with others in the past, as something that will give you events that we can't predict. And the reason we can't predict them is actually because we don't know how they happen. It's actually a deficiency in our information and access to our information. That's irrelevant to how the universe started or anything like that at all, or the fact that we can't measure quantum fluctuation. Of course we can't. We have no. We're still, our mind is still boggling at the fact that there are quantum events. It's nothing. It's we just don't have the capability to do that. Now, this is all irrelevant to the topic of those things require explanations. So the universe, you said, came from is everything from the inflation onwards, has to have a beginning, but that beginning came from a quantum fluctuation in nothing, which is actually something. And you said this goes on ad infinitum. So this universe is dependent upon some previous quantum fluctuation, which is dependent on some previous quantum fluctuation, which is dependent upon some previous quantum on and on and on and on into the past, not causally, but into the past in terms of continuity. One thing is dependent upon another thing. The question I'm asking you is, what are your thoughts on a infinite regress of dependencies?
I believe the infinite regression ends at the energy field that contains this universe. So I believe that an energy field
which energy
exists.
field that contains universe?
So let's call it the quantum field. Okay, that is, but because I don't actually think it's a quantum field, because we already know that there can be other fields. For example, the inflaton field. But I'm just going to, for the sake of argument, call it a quantum field. All right.
No, I think that this is the point here, because now we've gone into this sort of. When we both agree we're not physicists.
Sure.
And then what you've done is you've sort of appealed to this magical field, which is the thing that everything else is dependent upon. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And you don't know how this magical field works. But what you're saying, this magical field brings about universes.
Yes.
Yeah. Is it mechanistic?
That is my position.
Yeah. I appreciate your faith in this position. Is this a mechanism, or is it something that has a volition?
What do you mean a mechanism? You mean does it have?
So if we see the natural world, you're a naturalist. Everything in nature is mechanistic. There is a mechanism, whether we understand the mechanism or not. There is a mechanism of how things work. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I believe that a law of nature brought this universe into existence. A law of nature, like, for example, a quantum fluctuation. So the event.
I need to clarify terms. Yeah, just to clarify terms. So laws are human or our observation of patterns that we then say this is a law of
ascribe
and max. Yes. So laws in themselves are nothing more than observed patterns.
Sure.
They are based upon, so there's no law of gravity. So we've just observed gravity and we've done some calculations and worked out this is how it works. It doesn't describe gravity apart from its effects. We don't know.
Yes,
it took us ages to work out, from the Higgs boson, that this is what may be causing gravitational effects, but we still haven't understood this. So all we can do is describe the pattern, and that pattern description is what we call the law. So a law is an abstract thing, and it cannot bring anything about. So
I understand that.
You understand. So when you say the laws of,
I'm not saying physics, the law that we our abstract notion of the law. I'm saying whatever is pointing to, whatever the law is pointing to, is the thing that created it. Okay, so you call it a force of nature, or I'm just using the term loosely, a law of nature.
Yeah. So, but this is the thing, because what we do is we anthropomorphize the abstract into the physical world. So what we're saying is there's a law that something brought about the universe, and we can look at the effects of that and refer to that the pattern that we see as a law. But the law itself is not anything that exists.
Yes.
So we're still stuck in the same question. I
don't have a better way of explaining or describing.
All I'm doing, I'm not putting you naturalist. The only thing that I'm doing is I'm trying to highlight for you that it's from my perspective, your worldview is inconsistent and non-explanatory. It doesn't not give any information at all. What you're saying is the universe had a beginning, that beginning came from a nothing, which was something, a quantum vacuum. A false vacuum.
I mean, I
which
think
is
you're
like,
being very derogatory here.
no, I'm not trying. No,
Because
this is what you said.
physicists will say that false vacuum is actually something. But
Yeah.
you're like painting it in a bad light by saying, well, it's nothing, but you're saying that it is something. So let me just read a very quick snippet about false vacuum, very, very quickly. One sentence, okay? A false vacuum exists at a local minimum of energy and is therefore not completely stable, in contrast to true vacuum, which we believe this universe is, which exists as a global minimum and is stable. And
So
if you read the false
second.
vacuum,
Sure,
I don't even understand the false vacuum.
This is the thing. So
it doesn't matter. My point is that a natural law, what we're describing as a natural law, a natural event created this universe.
Okay. Where did the natural event come from?
Are you just going to go into infinite, like your perception of infinite regression? But what I'm saying is that it is not valid anymore to say what happened before the Big Bang, because time didn't exist.
So
those fluctuations happen.
I don't know what your name is, but
spontaneously. Trevor, you can call me Trevor.
Sorry, Trevor. Trevor, the problem is we're sort of we've already agreed things, and then you sort of bring them back in. So we agreed we're not talking about time, because you yourself talked about the time started with the inflation, and then prior to that there was a quantum fluctuation. Now we're not referring about time; we're talking about dependent. The universe is dependent upon that previous quantum fluctuation. The term false vacuum, I was describing this as an oxymoron. You can't call something a vacuum and actually is something, which is what the physicists say, but the term is still used, false. I mean, it's literally something that doesn't make sense.
Listen, what physicists call a vacuum is not the same as what we in colloquial terminology, a vacuum cleaner.
Thank you.
It's sucking in air.
And
but
why is that a problem?
To physicists, a vacuum is totally different.
I agree with you completely. We agree. The problem here is that when the layman is told the universe from nothing, as in Krauss's book, and they don't go out and buy the book and read it, actually, that this is not nothing, but this is something, they get given the wrong impression. They get given the impression that there was nothing behind the universe, that it just popped into existence from whatever natural law, these terms.
That's definitely not what he's saying.
Sure, I agree with you 100%. But the problem is that the terms that are being used and put forward by particularly the neo-atheists are terms that will confuse the layman. So if you said to the layman, the problem here is that we have a universe. It is dependent upon something that happened prior to the inflation, and that was a quantum fluctuation in something. Then the question naturally comes is, okay, well, what brought that about? And then when you explain this was probably some other quantum fluctuation in something prior to that, and then what is that dependent upon? And then you go into this infinite regression, and that's the problem here. There's a logical problem here for me. I mean, you may find that infinite regression is not a problem, but there's a logical problem here of this infinite regress of contingencies that go on in the past. Now, this is the equivalent of, and I'm going to give an analogy. This is the equivalent of, you're having a pitless jug, a bottomless jug that you're trying to fill with water. You will never be able to do it. Why? Because there is no amount of material or anything that you can put into it that will get you any near the surface. But the problem is we're here. We are here. And so what we need to do to fill this jug to get to the point of where we're here is there has to be something that is fundamental, that everything else is dependent upon, that itself has no requirement for being explained outside of itself. Otherwise, we're in the logical problem of the infinite regression of contingencies. So for me, as a theist, when I see this, it doesn't make sense, and it doesn't logically doesn't make sense, and the idea that people would believe that there's an infinite regression of contingencies going on forever is, I mean, they're free to do that, but it doesn't hold any water for me. Now, if you're
that's not what I'm saying, though.
Okay, what are you saying, naturalist? Trevor, I'm misunderstanding.
So the thing is, if you're saying, well, you're going back to a quantum fluctuation. Well, what caused the quantum fluctuation? Okay, maybe another one and another one and another one. That is that is still temporal, because you're still thinking temporally.
No, I haven't
I'm not
mentioned
going to use the
time.
word time. I'm not going to use the word time. You're thinking temporally because you're thinking this event precedes this one, and this one
No,
precedes
it's
this one,
not
and there's
preceding.
an eternal precession of events that go back in eternally. That's not what I'm saying.
So that's not what I'm saying either. We agree.
Okay.
I'm not talking about time. I'm talking about contingency. So what? So how can I explain this?
Okay,
So
I understand the contingency. Okay,
yeah.
so here's the thing. A field of energy exists in this universe and outside of this universe. Okay, it stretches to eternity,
Is there any evidence?
infinity.
Is there any evidence?
This is my worldview. This is
I
my
appreciate that.
worldview.
But then
Okay,
you're.
and I'm saying an
Trevor,
eternal.
just a quick question, naturalist. Did this field exist before the universe existed?
Yes, before this universe. So this
Right.
bubble universe.
But I thought you said we can't talk about anything before the universe.
I mean, what I mean is physicists don't want to talk about.
No, whether they do or they
things
don't.
before.
You said
I'm saying my worldview is
whenever we raise the infinite regress, you say we're thinking, we're
temporally.
thinking about something preceding something. But you've just now admitted that this quantum haze, quantum flux, quantum potential existed prior to the universe existing. You've just accepted that. So therefore, you can talk about existences prior to the universe. Then, correct?
Sure. Okay.
So let's move on from that argument. Now, so Imran's argument is perfectly reasonable. Then,
which one?
There has to be something fundamental that everything else is dependent upon.
Yes, the eternal field of energy.
And is this eternal field of energy? Does it have a flourishing? Does it decide when things happen, or they just come out of it randomly?
It's not necessarily randomly, but yes, can be random. But those are just its own internal laws.
Right. So if it's not random,
I mean laws. We're just going to call them laws. If we could actually understand.
If it's not random, what is it?
It's determined by its own nature.
Determined by its
so
own nature.
So here's the thing. Okay.
Let's deal with that. So it's determined by its own nature. So it has a nature then potentially.
Yes.
And we see with the universe, we see basically infinitesimally small probabilities for things to function. Law of gravity, hundreds of decimal places. The strong and weak nuclear forces, hundreds of decimal places. All of these have to be aligned perfectly for the universe to be able to support biological life. So if you're saying that it could make a decision in order to do that, is this thing very, very powerful then? Does it have a lot of power, more power than the universe?
Of course, it creates universes.
Okay, and it potentially.
I'm not saying it decides. It doesn't decide.
So, okay, but
it doesn't have a will, like a willpower to override its own laws. Okay, yeah. So it just think of quantum field. I mean, if you think of
so it has a law. It has a law within it. It has a law within it that's unexplainable as far as you're concerned, from which a universe can be born. And
there are models of quantum fluctuations in false vacuum.
Yes,
papers written on the stuff.
No, forget. Look, let's have a conversation, naturalist. Let's not constantly just talk about papers. So this universe then comes from this quantum, and hundreds of decimal places that these things have to be where they are for biological life. How does that precision arise?
Let's call it random.
So you're saying that it's a random event causing the universe to come into existence.
So do you know what the puddle argument is? Have you ever heard the puddle argument?
Sort of avoid puddles. I don't want to get my shoes wet, but go ahead.
So a puddle of water says to its surroundings, wow, look at this hole that I'm in. It's perfectly shaped for me. I'm this puddle of water in this little pothole or whatever, right? It's the shape of the pothole is perfect. All of these things, they align perfectly for me. Wow, what a coincidence. Okay, it's actually there's other arguments called the carbon chauvinism, like where we're saying, well, it seems to be, it's amazing that everything is like, just perfectly right for us. Actually, life is not perfectly right. I mean, our sun, our Earth is not necessarily perfect in every single way. It could be more perfect.
Nobody's claiming that. Nobody's claiming that.
So,
okay, naturalist. Let's deal with that analogy then. Yes.
Sure.
You go to an art gallery, and you see a picture on the wall. Let's say it's 20 feet across, one of those giant pictures, 10 feet high, 20 feet across, and it's got this beautiful army scene on there. Yes.
Okay.
Hundreds of people, guns, muskets, all sorts of beautiful things added to this thing. Yes. You're claiming that just because I see order and I see some sort of image there, you know what? It could still just be all random, because somebody could have just thrown paint onto the painting, and there is a probability that it could have fallen in the right places and we could have this beautiful painting. That is a mathematical probability. I agree with you.
I mean, it is a mathematical. If you've ever heard of Boltzmann brains, you'll understand it is a mathematical probability. But it's, I mean, to our common sense, or our common understanding, it's somebody would have painted that, right?
Right. So
I understand.
When we see precision to that level, and since the only thing we have is this universe, because you can't show me another universe or multiverse or infinite universes, can you?
Well, okay, let's not go there.
No, but you can't. You can't show me that, can you?
I can't.
Right, no. So what we have is we have this universe with infinitesimally small, hundreds of decimal places of probabilities that have to all line up to an extent that if, for example, I mean, just the law of gravity, cosmological constant, and the strong and weak nuclear forces, just those three out of the many others, if you get it wrong by
I understand the fine-tuning argument.
Yes, it's the probability of like one atom in the entire universe.
I understand the fine-tuning argument.
But I understand it. But guess what, Trevor? What you're saying is, despite that, I would attribute randomness to that, then say, actually, you know what? There seems to make more sense of it not being random and it being sort of measured out by something incredibly intelligent, incredibly capable, incredibly powerful. And in fact, you know what, naturally, in some ways you're simply substituting God with the quantum. Your God is quantum, basically.
That's very close. Yes, Abbas.
Anyway, Imran, I'll let you finish up. Sorry, I interrupted there.
Maybe the difference between what I believe and what you believe, there's really only one difference. My God, okay, is all powerful. It can create universes, etc., etc. The only difference is you believe that God has a will and intention and speaks to people and has a message for humanity. And I don't believe that a God like that exists.
And why do you?
So that's an interesting thesis, but it doesn't really make sense. And I'll give you a couple of reasons for this. So if you, because there's a whole another argument was sort of had in the middle, which is the argument from the anthropic principle, which is an interesting argument as well. And if you look at that in depth, there is too much mathematical improbability for the universe to be as it is and be a life-supporting universe for many, many reasons. But I won't go into that because that's not really the point of the discussion. The point of because you're going to appeal to the multiverse and so many millions of universes, and we're bound to be in one, right? But that's not the issue. The issue here is you have this universe-creating machine.
Yep.
And the problem with that is that, and then you say that this is a fundamental thing that itself requires no explanation. This is the claim, yeah. The problem with that, there's a problem with this claim, and the problem with this claim is quite straightforward, and that is the things that are mechanistic, i.e., that they follow some sort of laws within themselves. That limitation requires an explanation. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'll give an analogy. So if you have say if you have a circle, yeah. If you saw a circle and the circle was red, one of the questions you have to ask is, why is the circle red? It could have been anything, right? Why is it red? What's limited that to that color? Or why is it a circle at all? How have we delineated or limited this thing? So so when you look for things that need an explanation, one of the things you look for are limitations on it. So one of the things you've posited is this universe creating machine that essentially pops out universes without will or rhyme or reason, but something is causing it. Something has to be causing it. Now, what you say is there's some internal cause in this, which is really just pointing to there's some eternal, you said, laws, mechanism, something that we can observe a pattern in, that if we had access to this, that would generate universes. The question is, what that itself, because it's a limited thing that is mechanistically producing universes, that because of its limitations, it requires an explanation. And then we're in the same chain.
What is its limitations?
That
it doesn't have limitations.
Yes, the limitations are there.
What's its limitations?
It's producing universes without, because of some internal mechanism that it has no control over.
Sure.
You said it has no will. You said it has no will, right?
Yeah, it doesn't have a will.
So that means that it
can't go against its own nature.
No. Let me explain. It doesn't have a will, so it's producing universes according to some mechanism that you're not aware of.
Well, let's call it quantum fluctuations.
Yeah,
for lack of a better word.
It's producing universes according to quantum fluctuations. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How is it doing that?
What do you mean? How is it doing it?
How or why is it doing that? Because this is
doing that because that is built into its nature. So if it's an energy field and it has quantum fluctuations, so we only see visible things when a fluctuation.
You've gone down the wrong route. You're going to explain. So the problem here is that the actions of this thing, because they are not wills.
Because the thing is, you want to put this type of terminology onto it. It's got limitations. It creates universes.
Yeah, it's limited. That's the limitation. It does not produce them without limits. It produces them because it has to produce them. Does it do anything else?
Well, it sustains all the universes. So, I mean, because if they are within the energy field, right, then it is sustaining them as well.
So this thing produces universes without having any control over what it produces, how it produces them. Yeah. And because it produces them, those things depend upon this thing, right?
Yeah, those universes depend on
this thing. But this thing itself, because it's a mechanism, it's a quantum field. Where did the quantum field come from?
That's eternal.
Yeah, this is
eternal into the past.
This is where you're in.
Always existed.
You're in the same infrared. So all you've done is you've posited you've had all these quantum fluctuations that are explained by previous or explained that are dependent upon other natural quantum fluctuations, and then you've ended up with I've got an eternal.
There's one fluctuation. There's one fluctuation.
You've got no.
There's not an eternal regression of fluctuations that brought this universe. There's one fluctuation that brought this universe into being, and that happened at the moment of the Big Bang. One.
Sure.
Doesn't
Can you prove that, naturalist?
No, that's not the point. The point isn't about proving that. The point here, because you can't prove that, because obviously you're making a faith statement.
No.
The question here is the quantum fluctuation that brought this universe into being. What is that dependent upon?
An energy field outside of this universe.
Where did the energy field come from? What is that dependent
That's upon? Eternal. That's what you call God.
No, not at all. Yeah. Not at all. Not at all.
What I'm saying is,
let's agree on this.
My energy field.
Sure.
Is
so let's rather than putting labels, let's agree with this.
Most of the attributes that you're giving it, except will and whatever.
Trevor, let's just agree on one thing here. So there is something fundamental that everything else depends upon. You're calling it a quantum field, yeah?
Sure, for lack of a better word, yes.
Yeah, that's right. Now, from And the quantum field is part of nature. Things that are within nature are contingent. I would posit they require explanation, and the quantum field is the same thing that requires explanation. You could just put the term eternal in front of it; it wouldn't make it eternal. There's got to be something about that thing. There's got to be something about that thing that determines that it does not require an explanation anymore. Just putting the term eternal in front of it it's not sufficient. You've got to do more work than that, Trevor.
I'm saying it is eternal.
Okay, I understand your faith.
It's a hard rule on my worldview.
That's fine. So if you're gonna assert that a brute fact, you're asserting a brute fact. This, I don't know. This is universal. It just is. Then that feel free to do that. But this is not what we as theists posit.
So, for example, we cannot determine what the quantum field, our quantum field, the real one that exists, real one, what we call the quantum field, the energy field that exists in this universe. We don't know if that's eternal. It can be eternal because we cannot see beyond the borders of this universe. Okay, and we don't know what that is contingent on. Trevor, and I'm saying that energy field is non-contingent.
We've allowed this conversation to sort of drag on for a long time. And I think there are a lot of people waiting. Naturally, so I just want to comment very quickly on one thing you said, that there's no difference between us positing God and you positing this quantum field. I just want to ask you, what does this quantum field tell you about whether it's good for you to kill, let's say, a child? What would it teach you about that?
I mean, it doesn't. Of course, it doesn't teach you about that kind of stuff.
So is it wrong? Is it wrong to kill a child then?
Those are rules and laws that we, and as society changes, we improve our own morality.
So if in some societies it's acceptable to kill children, would you say that would be acceptable to you as well then?
From my perspective, no, it's not.
So how would you argue against it?
Do you know what is the veil of ignorance? It's a moral argument. You can also use moral relativism. There's a few moral arguments.
Yeah. How would you argue against it, naturalist? How would you explain to this society that has a consensus that it's okay to kill children? Or for Germans, for example, in the Second World War, to kill Jews because they said they were damaging their country or whatever it was. How would you argue from a certainty, from this quantum haze that brought everything into existence? Because remember, from your naturalist view, everything is just matter assembled in a different way. So how would you argue against that?
Look, I understand that my worldview doesn't make you feel all warm and fuzzy inside. You know, it doesn't bring these moral.
I'd just like you to answer the question.
Objective morality.
Answer the question.
I don't believe in objective morality.
Okay, so in some conceivable place, it could be acceptable to kill children, then, right?
I mean, in some very distorted kind of world, from my perspective.
So from our perspective,
because you're not going to survive very long.
Well, you can come up with this, but people could say, well, we're overpopulated. So they could come up with reasons, right?
Look, I believe in autonomy of self, right? That you have the right to look after your own body, for other people not to harm you. Okay, so if you take that position in morality,
where did you learn that from?
It's a moral argument to say that
this is the problem, Trevor.
So this is my last point to you, naturalist. That is the difference, my friend, between your God of quantum and my God. I can argue from certainty that Allah has made this haram, forbidden, and this is murder, and this is wrong in every circumstance. You cannot just go and just kill an innocent child somewhere, regardless if the entire world was to agree otherwise. That's the difference, my friend. The difference is that you don't have any moral anchor with your.
It's irrelevant to.
No.
It's irrelevant to the truth of the statement.
I'll tell you why
it's the truth of reality.
No. Naturalist, I'll tell you why it's relevant. It's because your claim that our belief in a creator that does in fact teach us morality is no different from your believing in this quantum haze that simply brings matter and energy and organizes it randomly to give a possibility of life to even exist. You're claiming that both of those are the same. And what I'm trying to explain to you is that no, they're not the same, because one explains to you why you're here, what your purpose is, let me just
But
finish.
Abbas,
What your,
you're
no,
not
no,
you're
let me
not
just finish.
paraphrasing me
What your
correctly.
purpose is and what you're here for and the rights and wrongs of how you must conduct yourself. You, on the other hand, naturalist, have to rely completely on social consensus, which is fluid and changes, and things that were morally unacceptable today are morally acceptable, and they could go the other way as well. And guess what, naturalist? You would have no other mechanism to argue against those changes, because at the end of the day, you're just atoms arranged in a different way to Imran or to me or to that child or to that rock. And that, my friend, is the biggest difference, perhaps one of the biggest differences between your worldview and our worldview. You've just basically substituted. It's an old T-jump argument that, oh, I believe in nature and my nature basically is my God, and it's unguided and it doesn't design, it doesn't bring into existence when it wants to bring into existence. It just somehow pops into, things just pop into existence. Well, why are universes not popping right out of you right now? If they're infinite universes, there can be no conceivable space anywhere where there isn't a universe popping into existence. There should be one popping right out of your head right now and in your room and on your shoulder, but we don't see that. So the argument is ridiculous. But in any case, thanks for coming on. We'll invite you on again, but we have other people waiting as well, so we need to get them on. Thanks a lot, naturalist.
Okay, thanks.
Bye-bye. Lovely. Pablo, Mr. B. Watson and Skeptic, you need to have your cameras on. If we can't see you, identify you, we won't be able to get you on. Imran, do you want to add anything to that? Nazem, you, I think, completely bored by that conversation. Sorry. You completely
Trevor's gone now, so it's sort of unfair to... But I think one thing we ended up agreeing with, we agreed on a few things. Nothing is not... physicists don't understand nothing to be actually nothing. Yes, they call it something, which is important for people to understand. So if you just saw the title of Professor Karas's book, A Universe from Nothing, it's a misnomer. It's actually labeled incorrectly. It probably means a universe from something. We also agree that actually you can't have an eternal, sort of infinite regress of contingent things. So he ended up asserting a brute fact that his, this field, this sort of magical quantum field, was a brute fact. They just exist. That's it. There's no argument. It just has to be the case. And I think you have to do that to escape from
of course,
eternal regression.
Course.
The problem is that this would require an explanation because it's a mechanistic thing.
Of course.
And that conversation didn't really go any further. But overall fruitful. And I think that, just hope that he gets the point to reflect upon this idea that things that are limited in any way, they're delineated in any way, require explanations.
But anyway, and the other thing is that we're always told, "Oh, what's your evidence? What's your evidence?" But it's perfectly okay to believe that there's something called nature, something called quantum that always existed, which is a belief, and it just gives birth to infinite universes, which is a belief, and it can organize these universes to infinitesimally small decimal places for there to even be a possibility of life in those universes. And oh, by the way, that's just random as well, and of course there's no way of proving that, so that's my belief as well. So effectively it's just, this is what I believe, this is what I want to accept. And one last thing I just want to very quickly touch on. We don't just believe in God because of these philosophical arguments. We believe in God for a multifaceted number of reasons. One of those, yes, is the argument from contingency, and it's a logical, rational argument because the Quran itself talks about, did this universe create itself, and are you the creators of yourself? So Allah is posing this question to us to think about the beginning of the universe, right? But we believe in God because of many other reasons, because we have prophets who claim that they were from God. We verify whether those prophets indeed were prophets. What are the reasons to believe that? We have revelation. In particular for us, of course, it's the Quran, and the Quran itself asserts, if this had come from anyone other than your Lord, surely within it you would find many contradictions and errors. So we look for those contradictions and errors. We don't find them, and we find many other things that we've discussed. And I'd urge you to go to Sapiens Institute. They have an article about the Quranic miracle. It's about a 90-minute read by Brother Hamza Zorsis. I think it's a very good article about just the shortest chapter of the Quran and why it's a grammatical miracle. Study these things, and then you come to an informed decision as to why Muslims, for example, do believe in a creator, they do believe in revelation, and they do believe in the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So it's a multifaceted, reason as to why we believe what we believe. But, you can't just come up with, I believe this just, and I'm just going to accept it as a hard, brute fact, and that's it. I mean, without providing any evidence at all, and that's it. And that's all I have to offer, by the way. Can't talk about consciousness, can't talk about morality, can't talk about the purpose of life, I can't answer any of those questions, by the way. So basically we're left guessing, but however, religion actually delves right into those questions and it answers those questions in detail. Naz, I'm sorry, did you want to add anything at all in there, or should we get the next guest on? Lovely. Okay. Mr. B. Watson, just give us a quick wave. Lovely. You're on next. You can switch your camera off if you prefer, or you can leave it on, whatever you're comfortable with. Hi, B. Watson. Welcome to the stream.
Hi, you right, guys?
Yeah, we're okay. We've got a bit of background noise there. B. Watson, I don't know what's possibly you got the YouTube on as well.
I'll take that off right now for you.
Sure. Lovely. Welcome to the stream.
Thank you.
If you don't mind, just tell us a little bit about yourself. Are you religious at all yourself?
Am I religious? No, I was raised Muslim, so I know about Islam a little bit, and but I'm not religious myself now at the moment.
Okay, lovely. Okay, and do you have a question or a statement?
Yeah, my thing is because I fell out of Islam because of my whole thing was believing, like you said, belief and stuff like that. You was just talking about belief and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like now you just said you're talking about grammatical miracles in the Quran. Like, is that like all these kind of things? And then the guy in front just a minute ago was talking about he believes in a quantum fluctuating something, creating everything into existence randomly somehow. Like, have you noticed how everyone's got a belief about what reality could be?
Watson, what was your reason for leaving Islam, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, it's quite deep, man. It's like I was raised proper Muslim. I've been to Hajj and things. I know about Hajj, but I just had many influences in life, and I sort of grew up like, I don't know. It's hard to explain. It's like I came a time, there was just a hunger in me. I wanted to know. I want to know what's going on. I don't want to just believe. Like if there was such a thing as an angel called Gabriel speaking to Muhammad, I want to speak to Angel Gabriel. Why is it just him? Or if there is such thing as a blah, 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 like I want to know. Like, do you see what I mean? I've got this fire in me that just wants to know. And I can't just take stories or beliefs and stuff like that. So that's why I left Islam, because Islam is all about belief. You have to believe. And I just can't believe in all the stories. So I don't want to bring them up and stuff.
Did you do any research to verify whether there's any evidence that one should believe or these things, or did you just think, well, if I can't see it, I'm not going to accept it? Basically, is that what you did?
Well, I just think, like, what reason do I have to believe that?
Okay.
If I'm in the search of truth and knowledge, or I just want to know what's going on, what reason would I have to entertain ideas from someone else? Or from somewhere else.
Okay. So basically what you're saying is that you didn't find any evidence to convince you that Islam was actually from God. And as a consequence, because you didn't find any evidence, you decided to leave Islam. Is that would that be fair to say?
It's not about evidence, because I mean, can you have it? Evidence is a funny word, because like right now, this moment exists. Yeah, this very moment exists. Is there evidence for it? Can you explain it? Can you give me proof of it or how it come about? It's impossible.
But do you believe that this moment does exist?
Does anything else exist but this moment?
But do you believe that this moment does exist, I'm saying?
Well, yeah, it's the only thing that exists.
So you do believe in things that you can't prove then? Is that what you're saying?
There's nothing not to prove. This moment exists, mate.
No,
that's the only thing that is true in this. That's the only thing that is absolutely true.
No, but you just said to me that you can't prove that, though, can you?
No, what do you mean you can? No, I said this moment exists. That is absolutely true. You cannot. You can't. That's the only thing that is true.
Can you prove that?
Well, what else exists other than this moment, mate?
Well, no. Look, I'm not trying to corner you, brother. I'm just trying to get to you.
No, but I'm just saying.
What I'm trying to do. I tell you what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to just look at your position.
Yeah.
And I'm simply saying to you that you are saying that this moment exists. You're certain. By the way, I agree with you.
Yeah,
I
it's
agree
the
that
only
this
thing I can
moment
be
exists.
certain of.
Okay. But I'm saying to you, do you have evidence that you can assert to ensure that for that reason, i.e. looking at the evidence is why I'm convinced? Or are you just, is it intuitive? Is it just something that you feel strongly about? That's what I'm asking you.
Well, this moment exists, just like, you know, when you eat an apple, you get that taste, you get an experience that exists. That experience of eating an apple exists. This moment exists. This looking at a sunshine in the morning exists. That's
Right.
that exists. That's an experience.
Can you prove to me that that is the case, or is that something that you believe?
No, that is the only case. That believing is something that you would project onto the experience. So you have an experience of existence right now, and then you believe it's XYZ. The guy before us believed it was a quantum fluctuation creating his existence. You guys, or Muslims, believe XYZ. A Christian believes XYZ. You all guys believe something, and then you project that belief onto the truth, which is the moment, and then that's where you guys are getting lost. You're
Okay.
not.
So you believe that this moment exists, and I'm asking you, can you prove that? It's a very simple question, brother. Yes or no?
Can I prove what?
That this
moment exists.
Yes.
Well, it's self-evident.
So
it's absolutely true. That's what I mean by absolutely true.
So
it's self-evident. Like right now, do you exist? Are you conscious right now? Do you need to go to school to learn that you're alive, that you're conscious, you're having an experience? You don't need to study that. You won't find that in a book. It's self-evident, mate.
Yeah, but it's
reality. That's what reality is. Reality is self-evident.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to get to you at is that you can't prove that, though. It's just it's an axiom that we just accept, don't we?
It's a raw fact of given. It's the only given fact you're given in the mystery of knowing what you're trying to find out what you are. You're only given one fact. Is that there is existence?
What proof?
That's the only fact you've got.
What proof has anybody provided you to tell you that this moment exists?
It's self-evident. If I want to know what's going on, who I am, what I am, what's going on right now, what is reality? Yeah. The only thing you can ever go by is that reality exists. Otherwise, you wouldn't even be asking the same question. So reality itself is absolutely true and it's self-evident. But just like your existence is right now.
Right, but it's not provable. That's my point.
No, it's self-evident.
Yes, but it's not provable. That's my point to you.
No, because provable things are concepts. Proving something is a concept. Proven is a concept. Proven is a concept that you project onto the reality. Again, you're trying to project concepts onto something that's something that's not there. Proving something is a concept. You have to go to school to learn to prove something. You didn't have to go to school to learn that you was alive, that you're conscious. That is self-evident. Proven is a concept that you project onto reality.
Okay,
it doesn't exist.
I've pretty much tried my best to get you to address the question.
No one can help me.
I've been quite. I think I've been quite clear in what I've asked you. I agree that for us it's a self-evident truth. For myself personally, I believe that I exist. I believe that I'm having a conversation with you. But if you asked me, can I prove it analytically and empirically? I wouldn't be able to do that. I wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah, but you wouldn't need to because it's self-evident. It's the given fact. Because without that, you wouldn't even be able to ask the question in the first place.
It's not whether I would need to do it or not need to do it. It's whether I'm capable of doing it or not doing it. That's the question. And the point that I'm trying to get to you at is that there are certain self-evident truths that we accept on faith.
What do you mean by proof?
Prove them. But we can't.
What do you mean by proof? Explain your concept of proof.
Watson, you mind if I ask a question?
Yeah,
please go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sure you know I exist because I'm talking to you. Did Hitler exist?
Did Hitler exist? Well, again, that would all that exists what's going on right now. That's all that exists is this moment. Whatever this moment encapsulates, the entirety of this moment is all that exists. Hitler exists as a concept in your mind.
Okay. Did your great-grandparents exist?
They exist. They're gone now, but they exist as an idea or a concept in my mind. But they do not exist right now. They're not self-evident like I am. I self-evidently exist.
Have any existence in reality? Your great grandparents.
Sorry.
Do they have any existence in reality? Your great grandparents.
Well, right now, my great grandparents are an idea that I hold in my head that I'm speaking to you about.
So, did they have any existence in reality?
Did they? What, in the past?
Did your great grandparents have any actual existence in reality?
Well, that's a concept. That's an idea. That's just an idea. Calling them just because that's just an idea that you're projecting onto reality. The reality is right now this, and you're talking to me about great grandparents. What's that about? That's just an idea. Speak to me about this right now, this moment, not my grandparents. Speak to me about this moment right now.
Just be calm. We're just trying to have a conversation because obviously I disagree with your paradigm. I disagree with. Do you understand? We don't agree with each other on how to talk about reality. So if you're saying to me the only way you can talk to me is what I believe, then we're not going to really have a conversation.
Yeah, but I don't believe anything. I just know one thing is that I exist. Belief is something that you guys are projecting onto what is happening right now.
No, you believe you exist.
I didn't say I believe in anything. You guys believe in stuff.
You believe you exist.
So I don't believe I exist. I know I exist. It's not a belief, is it? It's self-evident. It's the only reason I can say I exist is because I exist. That's how I can even say that statement. How could you? Do you know anyone who doesn't exist can say I exist? Have you ever?
You're getting really emotional. Just be calm. Yeah, we're having a conversation. Does China exist?
As a concept, as an idea.
Okay, I think
on pieces of paper. On pieces of paper, China exists. China exists on pieces of paper. Does China exist to a bird? Does a bird fly across China and say, "Oh, this is China"?
Yeah, I mean, this is a waste of time.
No, this is it's interesting. It's
waste of time. If you ask him about his grandparents, and he says they're a concept in my mind, yeah, but did they actually exist in reality? Oh, I don't know what that means. All I know is it's a concept in my. What are you talking about?
Look, to be honest with you, I feel a little bit. Heart goes out to the gentleman. If this is the state of his, and I wish him all the best, and I hope that he, things get easier for him, because that's a difficult way to live your life. If you didn't even know if yesterday you exist or not, well, why prepare for tomorrow if you don't know tomorrow doesn't exist, right? So why even put your shoes on or go shopping or get your food or cross the road, or these are all concepts in the mind. I think I appreciate how difficult it must be for him. So we wish him all the best, but that was really
Nazam, do you exist, Nazam? Your sound doesn't exist, Nazam. That's the problem. Your sound still doesn't exist, Nazam. All I hear is, moving your lip, or see is moving your lips with no sound coming out. Guys, we've got 3 people in the back. Nobody's got the camera on. If you have your camera on, we can get one of you on. We're coming to the end of the stream, so if you don't do it quickly, I'm going to end the stream. So we've got Amet's Lidge, we've got Pablo, and we've got Skeptic. You need to put your cameras on, guys, so we can identify you. Pablo, just give me a quick wave. Lovely. You can leave your camera on or switch it off, or whatever you're comfortable with, Pablo. Pablo, welcome.
Just giving you the time check you asked for, yeah?
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, we'll be ending the stream after Pablo. Pablo, what question or statement would you like to add?
I would like to talk about more of the poll, not the poll argument.
Brother, if you could just speak into the microphone a little bit more closer, because we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
That's a little bit better, yes. Go ahead.
Yeah, about poll, the argument of poll. Like, he wasn't in. If he was teaching about the law, would that imply there would be like a judge to make sure they will observe the law? I don't know if you need, because observing the law wasn't at the time it would help be a judge to let's say if you break the law, right?
Okay, Brother Nazam, do you want to, shall I come in there?
Yeah, I'm not too sure what you mean. Do you
Nazam, your microphone is low as well. What's happening with all your microphones today? Come on, get it closer to your mouth, man. Now you've muted yourself. What are you doing, Nazam? Come on, you've been on this stream about 200 times now. Go on, Nazam. Sorry, I'm just joking.
Sorry,
Don't get upset.
Okay, Pablo, so do you believe that Paul taught that you should obey the law?
To the Gentiles?
Yeah, to the Gentiles.
No.
Oh, okay. So, why did then in the book of Acts did Paul tell the disciples that he himself lives in accordance with the law?
Because he was a Jew. Like at the time, to follow the law, just only Jewish people were under the law.
But doesn't he say there's neither Jew nor Gentile, but we're all one in Christ? So when he speaks about the law, he says the law divides us, and Christ had abolished it.
Yes.
So he says, like in Ephesians 2:4.
Nazam, your sound's gone again. Your sound's gone again, Nazam. What's going on? It was perfect about 10 seconds ago.
Okay. Yeah. So he said, Christ abolished the law in Ephesians chapter 2, verse number 15. He said he abolished the law with all its commandments and regulations.
Yes, he was talking about the Mosaic law, the law of Moses. Yeah.
Yeah. So in reference to the Jews, he says the same thing. So whether you're a Jewish Christian or a Gentile believer, he says that it's now all been done away with in Ephesians. And even in Romans, I know Romans is a letter that he makes a kind of a U-turn. But even in Romans, Paul says that we're no longer under the law. So I think the reference is Romans chapter 6, verse 14, where he says, for sin shall no longer be your master, because you are not under the law, but you are under grace.
Yeah, because he was like talking about you don't need to observe the law to be to follow Christ. Like there were, if he said the opposite, that will imply that you need to be a Jew, then you need to follow Christ.
So he does do that in the book of Acts, in Acts 21, verses 24 to 26, where he basically he undergoes the Nazareth vow, and he pays for the expenses to have the head shaved, so that people would know that there's no truth in these rumors, but that he himself lives under the law. Whereas in Romans, he says we're no longer under the law. And in Corinthians as well, he says, I do not regard myself as being under the law.
And
so, in 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 20, he says, to those who are under the law, I become one under the law, even though I don't regard myself as being under the law.
Yeah, because he follows the law, but inside, like he is not under the law in that sense.
Yeah, but he gave that false impression in Jerusalem that he was one of those who was living under the law. And this was in front of the apostles or the elders in Jerusalem.
Brother Pablo, we're sort of running out of time here.
Okay.
And I'd like to get Sister Amet's on quickly, because we don't normally get ladies on, and I think I'd like to give her at least a few minutes. Pablo, I just want you to think about, read the Council of Jerusalem, and read that, and I think it's quite clear that the disciples and Paul did not agree upon doctrine. And I think it's sensible to accept the testimony of the disciples, if you were to be accepting anybody's testimony at all, because we don't know even if these were the words of the disciples. But certainly, as far as the Bible is concerned, it just seems that the disciples themselves were observant of the law. They wanted Paul to be observant of the law. They wanted Paul to teach that people had to be observant of the law, especially the Jews, about circumcision and dietary laws. And we find a lot of evidence in the Bible that Paul was actually teaching something very different. And I think really as a Christian, that should cause you a lot of concern, because if both were apparently overshadowed with the Holy Ghost, and the Holy Ghost, i.e. God, was ensuring the message was true, then they can't have opposite messages going out, because God doesn't, God forbid, God does not teach one thing and teach the exact opposite at the same time and cause confusion. I think you need to sort of study that a little bit more, and then you're more than welcome to come back again and have that discussion with us. But thanks for coming on, Pablo.
Just a little thing, like also Jesus broke the law, like by not observing the Sabbath. So
I would say Jesus didn't, because it says he came not to abolish the law but to fulfill it. This was the accusation that the Jews made, but Jesus himself disagreed with them. He was disagreeing with them over the interpretation of the law. He was saying that man wasn't made for the Sabbath, but the Sabbath was made for man.
Exactly, yes.
So he didn't break the Sabbath, but he disagreed with the interpretation of what constituted as breaking the Sabbath.
Pablo, thank you for coming on, brother. You're more than welcome to come on again next time.
Yeah, I'd love to chat to you again, Pablo. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Amet, we're going to get you on very briefly. So welcome to the stream, Amet.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi there.
So my question is like, I don't want to talk about myself, but I already know that Islam is the right religion. Like, it seems like it's the right religion. I've been looking at it, but whenever you look onto something, some religions, people would say to you, like, after you decide that this religion seems the right one, they would ask you like to pray to God and then ask him to guide you. But if you don't receive that guidance, and if there's something that's holding you back, what's the thing that you can do? If you keep asking questions like, humanity doesn't need religion because by itself be a good person.
Sorry, we just lost you there, sister. Oh, so we just, I think, lost the internet. I think, look, we'll try to get the sister on maybe next time. And unless, Imran, you'd like to just quickly address what she was saying. I don't know if you understood the question at all.
Well, we got half the question. It sounds like, mashallah, the sister knows Islam. Did she come back? I heard something.
Yeah. Okay, we'll get you back on, sister.
Sister, we're about to get you back on, so turn your camera off.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Carry on, sorry.
So I was saying, so what can I do, like, to know more about, what can guide me to the right path? Is there anything that anyone can do?
Sister, can I ask you a question? You said, first of all, thank you for coming. I know it's not easy to talk about these things, so I appreciate your time. You said that you had already looked into Islam and you found it convincing. Is that right?
Yeah, actually, it's not only look into Islam. I know about Islam, like from where I came from. It's whether you there's no atheist or anything. You either be a Muslim or a Christian. So, but growing up, you might ask questions like, why do as a human, as a person, I used to believe like we don't need any religion to be a good person or to do good things in life. Like, your innate part tells you to do things without even without someone guiding you after you become an adult, right? So it's just our choice which makes us do bad stuff or whatever we choose in life. So this conscience comes to me, but whenever you read the scriptures, you find that every scripture is guiding you to do good stuff and then to believe in God. And why don't we just believe in God and just live life like that?
I agree with you. So in the places or the societies that you go to where people seem to do the good things by themselves, it's because the societies are religiously based. Like you said, you come from a society where people are not generally atheist, and they tend to follow some form of religion. So that means when you've grown up in those societies, the things that you think are right and good tend to come from the background of those religions. So even if you're someone who doesn't follow any particular religion, but you've been raised in that society, your ideas of what would be good and right would be from that society anyway. So they would have a religious background. The other part is that you heard of the fitra, sister?
I think that's the innate part of someone,
That's right. So this is the innate part of the human being that recognizes this existence of the creator and may give you some basic ideas of right and wrong as well. And this is also something that comes into play. So if you're in a society where there isn't a lot of sort of, I mean, if you just look at what's happening in the West, people dressing up as women or animals, or showing genitalia to young children, or confusing people's ideas about what basic things in society are, like human beings and human roles, then you see how things can fall apart and people can become really, really confused about even the very basic things. I think you're away from that. Can I ask you a question, sister? You believe in Allah, and Allah is not like anything else, like a human being or a prophet who came to the earth or anything like that?
Yeah, I do believe that, yeah.
And you believe that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is a messenger from Allah?
Yeah, I believe all prophets are, there are prophets. If you accept the scriptures, you must believe that the scriptures came with someone. Like, I'm sure God didn't come by himself and then give it to the people. So, yeah.
Alhamdulillah. So you believe in the Prophet, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him?
Yeah, when you see his lifestyle, everything is just, he must be a prophet.
So, sister, the guidance is in two forms. You said, where do I get the guidance? The guidance comes in two ways. There's I don't know if you've heard of this, is irshad and tawfiq. Have you heard of these two types of guidance?
No.
Okay, so the first type of guidance is the irshad. This is the provision of information. So this is what the prophets come with. The prophets come and they provide the evidence, or they provide the guidance to the people that this is, I am from your Lord and believe that God has sent me, and this is the message. And the message is always worship God alone without partners. And this is what the prophets have done. Now, the people who give this information or try to give this information are also providing a similar type of guidance, the information provision. The second type of guidance is tawfiq. Now, when you decide, like you've decided that I know this religion to be true and I believe it, and I accept that Allah is the only one worthy of worship and the Prophet Muhammad is his messenger, then God, and you accept, then God puts the faith, the iman in your heart. This is called tawfiq. This is from Allah alone. So what you're doing, sister, you're like at the door of the building. The door is there. The door is open. You need to step in, and then you will feel the heat of the house, and you'll feel this guidance is complete, in the sense that you're now in the place where you're going to be saved. Do you understand, sister?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So if you're looking for a special sign or something, or I'm going to get a feeling, it's not like this, sister. You know, because in iman or faith in the Arabic, it's not just I have to use my mind and everything, and then I have to have a feeling. It's not just I have to have a feeling as faith. No, it's about using your rationality that God has given you to arrive at the decision that this is the truth, and submitting to this. Then Allah will put the guidance of the tawfiq, the faith, into your heart. So what my suggestion is, sister, if that's okay, I think that you should accept Islam, sister, with us.
It's not about like I don't have a problem like accepting, but my problem is like I know I believe in God and everything, but the problem I have is I have this question every time I ask myself, like, okay, I might be the lucky person, like I got to read and study about religions, whatever is out there, but whoever around, when you check everything around you, like you said, what you see in the Western land, everything that's happening right now, I'm sure people are not doing this because they know, it's because maybe they're ignorant or they don't know anything. And
Yes.
so if that's the case, wouldn't that be unfair? Like, so it's unfair just to be for me to be lucky, or for you guys, or for anyone who has faith to find it, and then the rest of the humanity not be in this a situation or get a chance to have this. I mean,
I understand.
yeah, I'm
No, I
just
understand.
like, if someone is given the right, if you show someone like the right way and the wrong way, I'm sure anyone, pretty sure 99% of every person would choose the right way. But what
Yes.
we see now is not, it's completely the other way around. And I believe it's because they're not given the right chance and everything. So
I
that's
agree with
my
you.
problem.
Yeah. So there are people who have not heard the message of Islam properly. I agree with you, and those people will not be held accountable in the same way as someone who has been given the message of Islam properly. Allah says that in the Quran that we sent to every single nation a messenger, and He also says, "And we do not punish a nation until we send them a messenger." So if the people have not been given the information to make the correct decision, then they will not be judged like someone who has been given the information and has decided, knowing this is true, to turn away from it. So this comes back to Allah being the just. Allah says He is the just. So an example is Allah says the pen is lifted from three types of people, and what this means is that the deeds of these people are not written down. The first is the one who is asleep because they're not aware of they're not able to make decisions about any actions they might do. The child until it reaches the age of maturity, and someone's become intellectually mature and able to make decisions. And the one who is not able of sound mind, so someone who can't make decisions using their rationality because they may have some mental health illness or something like this. So we have a principle in Islam that Allah judges everyone differently according to your personal circumstances and according to the information that you receive. So the one who has had the full message of Islam and the one who has no message of Islam will be judged in completely different ways. And Allah will be just to them, and they will be happy with the judgment. Allah will say on the Quran says that on the Day of Judgment, everyone will know that they have been dealt with justly. Does that make sense, sister?
Yeah, it does. But there's some like, okay, let me give you an example. Like whenever I read about like old stories about World War II, or what some people did in the past, and what people are doing right now for the whole humanity. Whenever I read those kind of things and listen to the news, there's a part in me that says like, I have that ability to be that evil, like the person who's doing it. So if I have that ability to be evil and then still get this chance, like to know the right way, still it doesn't feel right. If I'm not a pure person, maybe there are some pure people like out there, and who doesn't have like the chance to be in this position. And why would I get that chance in the first place? That really like strikes me so hard.
Alhamdulillah.
It just
Sure.
pulls me away.
So I think that this is something that should put you towards Islam. So one is that this is true, and you know that you are in a blessed position where you have come to the realization that this is true. Oh, the sister's gone again.
Yeah, I think the internet. She may come back. Hopefully,
wait for the sister to come back.
Yeah, she may come back. I think in some ways it's like saying, if you were lucky and you won a prize, that you'd sort of say, well, okay, I was lucky and I won the prize. Why should I accept the prize because everybody else hasn't won the prize?
Yeah,
you're lucky. You've got the prize. Alhamdulillah, Allah's opened your heart, because there may have been a series of events and reasons why Allah gave you that opportunity, which you might not know, right? You may be sincere, you may be truly looking, you may have turned to God, and you may have, asked to God for forgiveness and for, and for truth. And then as a consequence, you might be given it. So I think that the logical thing there would be that once you've discovered the truth, at least accept it. And then you can worry about, how can this truth be perhaps disseminated and spread to other people that they could hopefully benefit from it as well. I would hope that the sister gets back, but I don't know if that's going to be possible. But Dr. Imran, any last words before we go? But if the sister comes back on again, we will definitely get her back on before she goes.
So just to Sister Amit, really, I think Sister, I think I understand your concern, and actually this comes from a place of love and caring about the world and the people in it. May Allah increase you in that. And I think that the thing to understand is that Allah is just, and everyone will be judged according to their circumstances. And many people, even if they're given the truth, will reject it. And the people that are not given the information will be judged according to what they know. What our role, really, what we need to do is, once we come to realize that this is the truth and what Allah requires from us, we have to submit and essentially become Muslims and help those people around us who are not seeing this message as the message from Allah. And this is what we're doing here. This is what we're doing. We're trying to help people to understand that this is the reality and to come to Islam. And I think what's really important is that you don't allow a feeling that should bring you close to Islam, that I've been very blessed to receive the message and understand it and accept it. Don't take that feeling that you're getting as a negative, because this is, I believe, probably a trick from Shaitan to delay you from entering the religion properly, so that the hope is that, God forbid, something happens to you before you get that chance to do that. And that would be, you would be in a position where you know the truth, you accept the truth, but you didn't take that step. May Allah make it easy for you. Where you don't need to come on to chat if you're not able to. If there's an issue with your internet, we'll put up our email. Please email us and we can sort of discuss with you in more detail. But what I would ask you, sister, is to take find some Muslims in your area, take it to Shahada, start learning about the religion, and then as you learn more, try to help the people that are around you. And inshallah, Allah is just, and everyone who is around the world, whether they will accept Islam or not is their own personal decision, but Allah will get the guidance to them in a way that is going to help them, or they will be judged according to that information that they receive in their lives. So know that Allah is just. Inshallah, I wish you all the best, sister. Jazakallah khair. It's really lovely to have you on. I just want to say that anything that we said that was incorrect is from ourselves, and we also ask forgiveness for that, and everything that is correct is from Allah and His Messenger. And may remember us on your du'as, brothers and sisters. Jazakallah khair to Brother Nazam for coming on. I really learned a lot from you listening to your exchanges, and also from Brother Ijaz, who came on. May Allah increase him in every way and give him health, inshallah. Ameen. And Brother Sheikh Abbas, lovely to obviously be in your presence, mashallah.
No Sheikh at all. Milkshake maybe. Nazambo, any last words before you go?
No, I can't top that. So
okay, alhamdulillah. Okay, so alhamdulillah, brothers and sisters, and in particular, sister, just to you as well. The fact that, mashallah, you do believe in God and you believe, in the oneness of God, and you do believe in all of the prophets of God, in reality, in your heart, you've actually already accepted Islam. I think, inshallah ta'ala, what you need to do is just verbalize it by just saying it. Accept Islam, inshallah. And if you watch this last segment, and even by yourself at home, if you're alone, just do the shahada, just accept it. And then inshallah ta'ala, the next show that we have on, please feel free to come on to there if you'd like to do it, and discuss anything in public, or if you'd like to do it in private. Dr. Imran has already given the email address. Brothers and sisters, remember our brothers and sisters in Turkey and in Syria. They're going through a huge test. And donate as much as you can, inshallah. There are lots of charities out there. The one that we generally, certainly I myself generally give to, is Ummah Welfare Trust. It's uwt.org. And 100% of the donations go to the people in need. So please donate as much as you can. And remember them in your dua, inshallah, in their supplication, that Allah makes it easy for them, inshallah ta'ala. And with that, Jazakallah khair to all the mods for all the lovely hard work that you do throughout the streams. Jazakallah khair to all of you who tune in regularly. We're very honored to see the same people on over and over again. And it's always a pleasure to see you and commenting and taking part in the streams. And Jazakallah khair to all those who've become members and are supporting the channel in that way as well. MashaAllah, it does help us to do the translations and the transcripts in multiple languages in the translation. So it does spread the message of Islam further afield. Jazakallah khair for that. Please remember us as well and our families in your dua and supplication. Also do dua for Nazam's microphone, that it works better next time, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.